This podcast is brought to you by the Arte Media Pantheon. Please head to artemedia.org to see all kinds of podcasts from our great friends. And if you would like to start your own podcast, they could provide you with the tools and resources to do so there. That is artemedia.org. A-R-E-T media.org. On with the show, Jordan?
On with the show.
So wait, did we do sound test?
Yes.
And we could hear both of us?
To see all kinds of podcasts from our great friends.
Okay.
And
Too long.
if you would like to
Too
start
long. It's too long. There's double looping now. It's bad. I just said that. Welcome to the Spurr podcast, everybody. Sorry, the audio on the podcast when I was editing it for clips last week was just so weird, and I think I fixed it so like now it won't have that weird echoey sound that it had, and also I won't turn on the sound midstream, so there won't be a weird echo on like 10 minutes of the podcast that I didn't notice until I was watching back footage like an idiot. Welcome to the Spurr podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Justin Spurr. I'm, as always, joined by the incomparable Jordan.
I am also here.
Jordan's also here. Jordan, I need you to turn down your gain just like a little bit, if it's not already turned down. I have it cranked way the hell up for when I was using it the other day, and you just like screamed in my ear.
You always turn it up and then you don't turn it back down. And I don't know that you've turned it up. So then I assume it's at the level that I leave it at, which is at a nice, reasonable level.
Yep. I forgot. Anyway, I'm joined by the incomparable Jordan, who just yelled very loudly.
I'm also here.
There we go. That's better. That was way less loud. On today's show, it's the news, including the Fantastic Four trailer. Apparently, this is a new Smurfs movie. A Plankton movie. Steven Hildenberg is rolling over in his grave. A Jurassic World trailer. The guys who made the Penguin show, they'd say where Batman was. Canceled Flash game. Magic the Gathering movie. When's the X-Men coming to the MCU? And Jordan, you might be wondering, when is that Back to the Future remake ever going to happen? We've discussed it, but we're gonna confirm it today on the show. And then later, because we are once again in our 100 era, 116 subscribers. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our return viewer rate is like 22%, which means 22% of you come back, and that's awesome. And I'm just real thankful that like we do something that makes you theoretically want to stick around. I'd love to know if you actually like listen to the whole show or if you just watch the videos. Let me know. But I thank you to everyone who subscribed. That's just real cool. It's real cool.
Real cool.
We're in our 100 era, so we are going to talk about the AFI's top 100 greatest movies of all time, and we will definitively say whether or not they are the greatest movies of all time. Definitively.
Not all 100 of them, though.
No, not all 100 of them, but some of them we will be like, are these the greatest movies of all time?
If you want to see Justin talk about the all 100 on his TikTok, he has a series where he talked about all 100 of them.
I do.
This is not that series. We did not subject ourselves to watching all 100 of these. So if that's what you're here expecting to see, you won't see that.
I can't imagine they're here expecting to see that. But no, there's no way. Beyond the fact that I had no desire to watch A Clockwork Orange for a third time, I don't want to watch Birth of a Nation a second time. I saw it once. I'm good. I'm okay. But before we jump into the news,
I understand.
We like to do our comment response time at the top of the show. So I'm gonna pull some comments that I think are kind of fun, including one that we got on our video. Are these movies as good as people say they are? Which was about The Raid, Redemption, and Ip Man. I got a very fun comment. I'm stalling as I pull it up. Sorry.
Stalling? How dare you stall?
Oh, we got a very
How dare you?
We got a very fun comment. There we go. I'm actually stalled long enough. From the Dungeon 1578, which I won't read the whole thing, but I'm just gonna kind of give you the gist, which is just that He agreed with me that The Raid is like one of the best action movies of all time. He said that the Ip Man was also very good, but it wasn't as good as The Raid. But he recommended a Korean superhero show called Moving, which he says has some great fights in it. Not the Raid level, but really good. Honestly, better than anything DC or Marvel have made in a long time. It's on Disney Plus and Hulu if you're interested. Every fight with Frank is awesome, and I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation. I'm assuming Hui Su versus the 17 Bullies is amazing too. Her dad's back hallway fights are also great. But since people on the show have superpowers, it's a little different from Ip Man or The Raid. Still great show, great writing, great fight scenes, great characters, definitely worth a watch. It's gonna be real like Sentai Kamen Rider kind of energy, or based on the description, that's what it sounds like. I will certainly definitely check it out, or will contrive a reason to check it out.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to have a foreign episode where we can watch any foreign movie from any country.
Just like a blanket foreign movie episode. Yeah, foreign stuff episode, because it sounds like it's a show. Yeah, we might have to. I've been thinking about it.
But see, then that's where, and I'm mostly saying this to be a shit disturber. Do we as Canadians count American movies as foreign films?
No, we don't. No,
because we're not Americans, so technically it's a foreign country.
It has to be one of the ones that can be nominated for best foreign picture.
So what about Canadian movies?
I don't know if those count, but no, as we are Canadian, it would not be a foreign film, so obviously no. And then it was funny. We also got another comment. So thank you for the comment. We appreciate that. That's real cool. We love comments. Leave more comments. We love engaging with them. I love even the mean ones. I love the mean ones. The mean ones are funny. And I love it when people think they got you. I won't mention. There's one we got that was mean that I won't mention, but I love it when they think they got you. But one of them was on our more recent short about Anthony Mackie and what he said about Captain America, which I thought was funny. I think I will pull that one up because I thought it was funny. Just because I kind of know what he said. And I don't know, like when I said I didn't look it up, there we go. I knew what he had roughly said. Like I think I'd seen someone kind of summarize it kind of as I had, and they more or less summarized it the way I did. But the person left a comment that said, "That's not what he said. Obviously, you did not pay attention. He basically said that America is a bunch of lying, dishonest piece of shit country, and Captain America is better than America. That is what he said. You need to rewatch the interview." Number one, that is not what he said. And number two, what you've said, I'm not going to say it's not completely inaccurate.
I'm going to abstain because I have American friends.
That's why I said not completely inaccurate. Some of that is inaccurate.
Joking aside, every country has its spots.
Right. I like.
That's what I'll say.
I like my Americans. I don't like America.
I think, yeah. Anyway.
That's how I would put it.
What I think doesn't really matter.
Right? As a Canadian. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, let's move on to the news. Jordan, let's do the news. Let's begin this by talking about, and man, I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this all week. That Fantastic Four trailer looks amazing. Like, it genuinely looks so good. I cannot tell you, Jordan, how stoked I am for it. And I know you're gonna attempt to ruin this for me, and I will not allow you to ruin this for me. You're gonna start. You're started. You're doing it. You're doing it.
I like things about it. There's things that I don't like. I don't like their costumes.
Look, okay.
I don't like their costumes.
I don't love the bright blue. I'm more of a dark. I get why it looks the way it does.
I get what they're going for, and I understand why it looks like it does. They're harkening back to like a '60s era
Oh, for
because
sure.
that's when it's supposed to take place.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like in an older time period. I understand. I just don't like how it looks.
I don't like the color. I don't like the coloring. I do wish it was a bit darker. I do think it's funny that in response to the criticism that the Thing was way too naked in the last one, he now has a neck-high suit. It's like, oh yeah, you don't like him seeing clothes? I mean, that's clearly just to make it easier to CGI him, but still.
Honestly, he's the one I don't like. The rest of them, I don't mind their costumes.
No,
It
yeah.
doesn't really bother me.
But you,
Him being like, you could have it where he's wearing the pants,
yeah,
and like from the waist up, he's not wearing it.
yeah.
That'd be okay.
That is
But like the up to the neck thing makes like it makes me wonder if and I could believe that this is what they're gonna do. If that's the first shot we see of them in their costume, they get into a fight, he loses the top half,
exactly.
and then the rest of the movie he won't have that top half.
Something like that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, or like in the climax he'll lose it, or like. Yeah, that
or like we'll see that scene of him and the Thing Ben Grimm will be like, really, Reed, like why did this thing is so stuffy, and he'll rip it off his chest
or something like that. Yeah,
I hope
apparently he's a combination of practical and CGI, and I love how he looks. I love the design.
Oh really?
He looks great.
I don't think he looks very good. I think that I think
phenomenal.
I think he looked better in the first Fantastic Four movie where it was all practical.
I know. I mean, he just looks like he's ripped right from the comics. He looks phenomenal. I love the fact that Herbie's in it. That is such an incredible pull.
I think for me, I need to see an action shot with him.
It has all. Well, I mean, you do kind of see that one action shot of him running. In the trailer, which I like how he's clearly heavy, like he's thudding along. I do enjoy that. Yeah, this isn't an action heavy trailer. It's really more concerned with like setting up the tone of the thing.
I will say when I saw the shadow of Galactus's head, I was like,
oh yeah, no, out loud, I was like, oh my god. Like, it is the stupidest fucking hat I've ever seen.
Oh my god,
I'm
it looks
so
great.
Happy.
Like it looks so accurate just from the shadow that we saw.
It could be terrible.
It looks so accurate,
and that would be enough. This movie could be terrible, and that would be enough. No, this trailer.
It has me tentatively excited.
It's all of my favorite parts. Like the last one, the Fan Four stick. That one was so. It was too. It wanted the Fantastic Four to be a serious action movie, and the Fantastic Four is not a serious action. They're not serious action characters. The best parts of it,
not on their own, they're not. They are. They can be when they're teamed up with other characters,
in my opinion.
like the Civil War storyline. Reed Richards gets pretty fucking serious in that.
Yeah, they can be,
but on their own, no, they're not really. No.
And like my favorite parts of the 2000s movies are where they're just like hanging out. Like, 'cause that to me, that's what the Fantastic Four kind of is. Like, it's it's a little bit of action, but it's mostly the family interacting with each other. Like and this movie like gets that. And yeah, clearly the bit where he's cooking with Herbie, that's clearly like this is the opening scene of the movie of them being like, we're the Fantastic Four, we're awesome. Like that's like clearly like an opening scene kind of deal.
Right.
Yeah, again, the fact that Herbie's in it. Herbie is a deep pull. Like I like the kids aren't gonna get who Herbie is. I get who Herbie is. I know you probably don't remember who Herbie is, but
not really.
We used to watch. Right? You remember that really cheap Fantastic Four cartoon?
Fantastic Four.
No, that's the '90s one. It's like okay. We'll do. Remember Doc, Bruce Banner. Yeah. There's a Fantastic Four equivalent to that.
Really, you went for that and not Spider-Man.
Oh,
does whatever a spy. That's also the '60s.
That's the '60s, but that one's not made by the same. It's not as cheaper as from what I recall. The Fantastic Four one is equally as cheap, but yeah, that era of show. And at the time, no, I think that Fantastic Four might have been the '80s. Because for whatever reason, they weren't allowed to use the Human Torch. So that show only has the Thing, Reed Richards and Sue Storm. And then they fill in a fourth character with Herbie, who's a robot, and that's who's in the trailer. That's the robot that's
Then they're not really the Fantastic Four, are they? They're the Fantastic Three.
yeah. There's some. I think there was some.
They're
legal,
the terrible trio.
Yeah, there's some legal reason. I don't know why, but yeah, they for whatever reason, yeah, they had that Herbie. So that's who Herbie is. Which I love that little scene where he's like, I'm not saying you're not doing a good job. I just, we're, I just need to throw in a little extra. I really quite enjoyed that. No, I'm legit. I love the aesthetic, the retro future. Like, it really reminded me of Tomorrowland, where it's like it's the future, but it's also like the '60s. Like, I really dig that. The fantastic car. Like, oh my god, like. It's this and it's Superman. Like, I'm really stoked for this.
I'm very interested to see how they tie this into the rest of the MCU.
The rumor goeth, the theory is that and someone pointed out that the shots of Sue Storm looks like she's been digitally altered, but that she's pregnant, and she's pregnant with Franklin Richards. And Galactus is like attracted to Franklin Richards and has come to Earth looking for him. And basically, Galactus like destroys their universe, and then they hop into the MCU, and then the Galactus is gonna follow them.
Interesting.
That's
okay.
That's the rumor. That's the theory. Anyway, I don't know how accurate that is, but
so then the question, I suppose, is Doom going to be in this, like, as a post-credit scene? Is it going to be him that they team up with, like Robert Downey Doom? Is it going to be him that they team up with to hop over to the MCU?
Maybe. Well, like, that's another thing. Is apparently he's not like signed on for it. He's only doing like the 2 movies and that's it. And then like a proper Doctor Doom is going to come in. And there will be an explanation for why he looks like Robert Downey Jr. So yeah, you could be right. They obviously refuse to confirm it, so...
Because then at that point what they could do is they could have it where, Robert Downey Doom brings the Fantastic Four over into the main MCU, and you have it where there is a Doom that exists in the main MCU, or like, he's not Doom yet, but like, him running into Robert Downey Doom is what like makes him become Doom?
Probably, yeah. I mean, who's to say? But I am either way. I'm stoked
for
the movie.
We're to say. We're going to predict it right now. We're going to say that this is exactly what's going to happen.
I mean, yeah,
this is the spur of the moment prediction.
I mean, he's absolutely in a post-credit scene that they think is clever. He's going to walk out of a portal and be like, "Hi, I'm Robert Downey Jr. You want to come do a Doomsday with me and make a bunch of money?" And they're going to be like, "Yeah, we do."
No.
Doom money. Jordan, I sent you. This was a trailer that popped up. I thought it was a fake trailer. I didn't think it was real. And then
fake news.
It popped up in my news. That Smurfs trailer that looks like it was that thing looked like it was written in a like boardroom by executives. Like I could just picture the lead writer walking in, being like, okay, ideas. You. What if Papa Smurf's brother was there? That's a character we've never seen before, right?
Like, and there will also be Gargamel's brother, and we're gonna find out that Gargamel's brother has been hunting this whole other group of Smurfs, which is Papa Smurf's brother. And no, Justin, it's bold of you to say that you feel like an executive walked into a room and fucking they wrote this. To me, it more screams like they had a dartboard, like a wall with like different ideas on them and just threw darts at it, and that's what the movie is.
Like, it's a weird thing to be like, everything you know about Smurfs. What if you didn't know anything? And like, it's also doing they come to the real world, but this trailer doesn't have a single live action actor in it. It's just establishing shots of them in New York, and I'm like, didn't this movie come out in like 2011? Like, what is this? Who is this for?
Yeah, the first one did this, but then they also have shots where they're going from like universe to universe, and we see them in different animation styles, and it's like, oh, so the real thing is going to be that the the human world part of it is like a bait and switch, and it's actually going to be about them going from universe to universe. And very obviously, one of the universes, because they would be stupid if they didn't do this, one of the universes that they end up in will just be the traditional 2D animation.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right because I'm pretty sure that pops up in that quick montage in the middle of the trailer. But
Oh, if they did, I missed it.
okay, yeah. Why? Like, just a question when I was watching this trailer, I had to send it to you because I was like, this is, and I included it because I was like, this. Why has there been 4 Smurfs movies? This is the 4th Smurf movie. It's the 3rd reboot. This is the 2nd time that they've tried to reboot this franchise with a different person playing Smurfette.
I'm just going to ask the same question that I asked last time, which is, do kids even know what the Smurfs are?
Yeah, that's it. Like, are the Smurfs popular? Like, are they popular figures? How is this getting financed? I don't understand.
Do they still make like a Smurfs show for children to watch? Like,
is there like an executive somewhere with unknown market research that's just like, yeah, the Smurfs are really profitable. Like that they've been able to, again, this is now the 2nd time they've rebooted this with a different girl playing Smurfette. The last time, and to be fair, the last one was all right. It was a pretty decent movie, but the last one that had Demi Lovato in it. Like, this is now another reboot of this franchise. Like, somebody is agreeing to spend the money on this. Like, do these have a tight return? Like, I just remember the 2nd live action one being terrible. Smurf syndrome, Jordan.
I mean, to be fair, I don't really remember the first one being like spectacular.
No, it was kind of alright.
Okay, yeah, and so I don't get it.
Just kind of a buy the numbers. They're cartoon characters and they come to the real world movie. That was fine.
I think it had James Marsden in it.
Neil Patrick Harris.
That's right. That's the first one. Right. I'm mixing up my animated character comes to the real world movies. They're all blending together.
He's also in the
sorry. Even worse. My blue cartoon character comes to the real world movie.
Yeah, he was also in the 2nd one. Yeah, it was him, and the love interest was the girl from the counselor from Glee.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, this was her.
Yeah, yep. That checks out.
And so
the science is down.
You know what, Jordan? We've got 2 more trailers. No, because I've got 2 stories that are adjacent. Okay. Let's do this one. Jordan, you'll never guess which beloved SpongeBob the SquarePants characters is getting his own spin-off movie, Jordan.
Well, now see, if you had wanted me to properly guess this, then at the top of the news, you wouldn't have said, also, there's going to be a Plankton movie and such will be rolling over in his grave. So, being that you have said that, I feel obligated to guess Patrick.
Oh, he already got a spin-off. It's called the Patrick Star Show, and it's apparently also not very good.
Oh, Sandy?
No, she already got her own spin-off movie.
Mr. Krabs.
Jordan, it's Plankton. We both know it's Plankton. Why are we doing this?
Well, because I wanted to prove that they've made one for like every character, and they've really just ruined this franchise.
They've absolutely ran this. It's weird because all these spin-offs are like spun off of that. They did that one CGI SpongeBob movie, and now they've just done a bunch of them. They're all in that animation style. They all look super cheap. None of the cast, the cast still kind of sounds vaguely enthusiastic about it because they love these characters. But like, it's so awful looking. Like, none of them look good, and they all kind of look like they're in the art style that I don't know if you remember Sponge Out of Water.
That's the awkward 3D.
The awkward 3D. They all look like that. And so this one is Plankton the movie, where the plot of it is, I didn't send you the trailer because I'm like, I could describe this and it's really stupid. Is it an origin story? No, it's Karen, Plankton's wife, sick to death that Plankton is a never-ending failure, decides that she will now take over the world, and she basically becomes Skynet.
Oh, the robot. Right. I forgot the robot voice.
And she becomes evil and tries to take over the world, and Plankton must team up with SpongeBob and the other good characters to stop her.
So it's just Terminator.
Right. And also just kind of, I don't know, that I mean, to be fair, that show's been on for, like, I think decades at this point, and, like, I think every bit of humor is to be wrung out of that franchise has been wrung out of it, but, like, Yeah, this Stephen Hildebrand would not love this. He would not be happy with this. He
Hold
very
on,
he very
let's find out.
he very famously was like no spin-offs. And then he died and they were like spin-off after spin-off after spin-off. It's like they were waiting for him to die before they could just churn out spin-offs.
It came out in 1999.
Really? Huh. Interesting.
That's when SpongeBob came out, according to Google. Anyway,
So that's
hold on, I'll look for the actual date.
1999. So Jordan, how long is 1999 to now?
It officially premiered on July 17th, 1999.
15 years ago?
Oh,
25 years ago. I'm bad at math. I'm doing math off the top of my head.
24 years ago.
24 years ago. Really?
I think 25 would be 2000.
True. Yes, 24 years ago. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
my basic math skills tells me that 25 minus 1 is 24, so it must be 24 years old.
That makes sense. That math adds up. Um, yeah, that's in that school of animated shows that needed to end like 10 years ago. That you're like,
Yes.
wow, that's still on the air.
Why? Why is that still on
Like,
the air?
you know, your Simpsons, your Family Guys, your South Parks, where you're like, why? Mercifully put it down. Nobody has the enthusiasm for this that they did. Although that's not true. SpongeBob is still, they're still weird. But yeah, it looks bad. I don't know. It's a Netflix exclusive movie and it looks bad. Speaking of looking bad, Jordan, they dropped a trailer for that Jurassic World Rebirth movie starring Scarlett Johansson. That's just Jurassic Park 3.
So Justin, say it with me. Eh,
It's just Jurassic Park 3. That trailer
okay.
did nothing for me. And what's funny, I'm pretty sure, well, okay, as near as I could tell, it's just a bad trailer because everything they've said about this is like, okay, it's supposed to be way scarier and it's going back to the roots of the franchise, the book, which was more of a horror story than it was like an adventure story. And supposedly there's no draft of this where every character survives. So supposedly like no character is going to live through this. And like, the trailer does kind of hint at this, but apparently there's going to be a whole thing with like weird, because they say in the trailer something about this is the stuff that they never released. So apparently we're going to see like weird scary mutant dinosaurs that they're just hiding in the trailer. They're just hiding. So I'm like, okay, maybe you should have shown like one of the freaky mutant dinosaurs, because yeah, this is doing nothing for me. It's just Jurassic Park 3, and I mean, some of the action looks good by lieu of the fact that it's 2025 and it looks newer than like the original one, or it looks newer than Jurassic Park 3, and it doesn't look like there's an annoying kid. But
the thing, mutant dinosaurs aren't exciting. We had Indominus Rex. We had the spine back one from Jurassic Park 3. Like, we've had mutant dinosaurs. That's
yeah,
not.
but apparently they're gonna do like horrifically mutated ones this time, like ones that are like real freaks of nature. From what I've heard, like I say, this trailer did nothing for me. There's nothing in there that makes me go, why are we doing another one of these? Like,
I'll watch it when it comes to streaming.
like I will say that I did enjoy the fact that it does kind of loosely have I said I'm surprised no one's made the movie where stupid white people try to go to the island. Like, it kind of is doing that, but to be fair, that's what the third one is. So yeah, this one's just it's just, oh yeah, they're going back to the island again. Like, yeah.
Also, I mean, that's also what the second one is.
True. Well, the second one was they're going to these. Oh yeah, I guess it's all the same movie. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't doing anything. The only way this was going to be interesting was what it was when they initially announced it was a reboot. The minute they were like, oh, it's just another sequel, I'm like, then why? Like, what is Scarlett Johansson doing that's any different than what Chris Pratt was doing? Like fundamentally, like, or
well,
I
mean, I like Scarlett Johansson more. She has boobs.
I mean that is a real low bar.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Can you feel my indifference from here? Like, it's, I really just don't care.
Not really, no. So have you've listened to on sponsor of the show Audible? You've listened to the Jurassic Park book, right?
The first one, yes. I don't think I've listened to the second one.
Fair enough. So apparently, the movie is going to include. They're finally going to use a scene that they didn't use in the original Jurassic Park movie. That's from the book, where it's the infamous T-Rex chase scene from the novel. For those unfamiliar, it sees Alan Grant and John Hammond's grandchildren, Tim and Lex, trying to float through a lagoon on a rubber raft, all while trying not to wake up a sleeping T-Rex. Things go poorly, as they often do in Jurassic Park, leading to a big chase scene. Does that sound familiar to you?
Vaguely, but there's a lot of those, so it's.
Apparently, this new one
We've had
will.
we've had like 20 years of dinosaurs chasing, so
Um, yeah.
kind of just all blends
All
together.
blends together. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. That's it. That's it for the trailers. That was trailer rapid fire. That was all the trailers. That's that's not the name for that. I don't have a name for it. It's fluid. It's fluid. Anyway, so the Penguin showrunner finally clarified why Batman was not in that show, and his response, he gave a pretty lame excuse, which was that Batman can't be everywhere. And that's real dumb, because the plot of that movie, to be fair, I didn't finish it, but basically the plot of that show, I should say, is about like a massive gang war of the family that he was investigating in the movie that preceded that show. And
Oh, so Batman would be there. Is
so
what you're
Batman
trying
would
to say.
absolutely be there. He certainly would show up. And it's not my issue with that show is, again,
I mean,
to be
I
fair,
could see Batman missing like one of the fights, but
right?
not like this is presumably a series of television, which would encapsulate a wide range of time.
Right.
I could see Batman not being there for every fight in every minute of the show, but if you're saying Batman lives in this city, he would be there for at least some of the events of this thing that are happening over a wide range of time.
And to be entirely fair, if I'm wrong
Or
about this,
if he couldn't be there, he would send Robin.
Robin doesn't exist in this universe. But
Well, no, he didn't in the movie, but this takes place after the movie and could have been the place where you bring in Robin.
I mean, sure, but yeah, no, to be 100% fair, I didn't finish it. So maybe over the course of the rest of that show, he mentions Batman or the Bat. Like, Batman doesn't need to show up on that show. Like, I get you can't get Robert Pattinson, but at least pay him lip service. Like, at least mention him by name. Be like, oh, the Bat busted up this smack house on downtown Gotham Street. Like, then I'll be like, okay, Batman has to be involved in the story. Like, you can't just like pretend he doesn't exist. And again, to be fair, maybe in like the rest of the show they do bring him up. Based upon what I saw, no, they don't mention him, and it was weird because they kept mentioning the Riddler, but they just didn't mention Batman. Like, yeah, Batman is a part of the ecosystem of the city. Like, he should always be top of mind to criminals, especially like this far into his career, because in the Batman he's like year 2 or 3. If he was like a year 1 Batman and he was still new, I could forgive it, but he's too established as a figure in Gotham to not be involved in the story. Like, he doesn't have to literally be there, but he has to be there, if that makes sense.
It does.
I figured it would.
It makes perfect sense to me.
I figured it would.
And that's all that matters.
It really does. So, Jordan, okay, this next story. So when I pulled this story, I only kept it because of its headline, and I just needed to know what this was about, and I thought it would be funnier if we discovered what this story was about right here together. Okay. So, Jordan, this is the headline: Frozen director making new shark attack wedding movie. That's what I saw. So, like, the Disney movie Frozen? That's my...
Or is he a director that has been frozen in ice and unthawed specifically to make this movie?
That's what I'm saying. Okay. That makes sense. So Adam Green is making a new shark attack movie called The Ascent, sorry. Green is known for directing Frozen in 2010, not to be confused with the 2013 Disney animated movie of the same name. Frozen follows 3 friends who become stranded in a chairlift. Oh, I do know this movie. In a chairlift overnight after a day of skiing, which forces one of them to make some horrible life or death decisions in order to survive. I'm pretty sure it ends with one of them jumping and breaking their legs. I'm almost entirely positive. I'm pretty sure I actually know that movie. But also, like, just a commentary on the site I use. That was confusing. The title of that article made it sound like you were talking about the Disney movie. I'm guessing probably to be clickbait. Shame.
Probably.
Um,
Almost certainly.
Avatar, Jordan, Avatar, the James Cameron one, the one that's just slowly becoming Avatar, the Nickelodeon show, because they revealed art.
Air is the next one. Air.
No, no,
Are they
no,
going to do air after fire?
no. I don't know what they're doing after fire, but the next one's fire.
Yeah, I know. They did water.
Yeah, next
They're
one's
doing fire, and so the next one has to be air, right?
Presumably.
Unless wait. Unless the first one that Jake came from was air because they have the flying beasts, which would then just straight make it Avatar because then he started with air and already had air.
I would argue they're air, and then the next then they went to water, and then the next one is fire. I mean, if this was Avatar, the next one would have been Earth.
Yeah, that's true, but they couldn't make it 1-to-1, or people would have just
But-
called it straight out.
But also the fire ones are supposedly the bad Navi, so you know. But he released, or at least I saw they released some concept art for what they look like, and yeah, they sure look like the Fire Nation. I don't know how to describe it, and I don't know if I could show you on stream, but just trust me when I say they look like the Fire Nation. In fact, if I make a short of this, which I probably will, I'll probably put it on screen so then you can watch it later and see that I'm right, and then you can leave a comment and say that I'm right.
And hit the like button.
And you can hit the like button. Always. Oh yeah, we have to do that. We never do the YouTube stuff. Like the video.
Like, subscribe, share,
Share. Do the stuff.
do it all.
So
Do it
Jordan,
now. Pause the video and do it now.
You don't have to pause the video. You can.
We'll wait. We'll wait.
We're live. You don't actually have to pause the video. You can do it while we're live. It's pretty.
I was talking to future people that aren't
Oh.
watching it live.
Oh, fair. No, fair. That's fair. Yeah, you guys can pause it, but the ones who are watching it live, you don't have to pause it. But Jordan, also, as the person what currently who's monitoring the chat by watching it, you should also leave a like.
I already liked it.
Okay, good. You did the correct.
I always do that.
That's good. Jordan, WB Games they be fucking up, Jordan. They be fucking up. Because
What did they do now?
well, I mean, previous week we discussed how they canceled Multiverses, a quite successful online multiplayer game. Apparently,
It's funny. It's funny that you say that because I've seen stuff which says that they have enough content to go to like season 10,
yeah, I know.
which doesn't tell me that they got canceled.
Yeah, I know. Apparently they it's getting shut down. They shut down all the servers. I think they're leaving it for a bit, and then they're going to slowly shut down servers. So they're not immediately shutting it down, but they're going to be shutting it down. I don't know when, because I don't play that game and I don't care. But that's just what I heard. I heard it from to be fair, I get a lot of my gaming news from TikTok, so and I never vet it. And also I think that was in my from my news site last week. Anyway, remember that Wonder Woman game that was going to use the Nemesis system?
I recall.
Apparently the production of that has not gone well. It's apparently gone through several changes. Now it's apparently not going to use the system, and it's just going to be a generic action adventure game.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
And apparently WB Games, sorry. Yeah.
WB
Games was apparently working on 2 games that got canceled. A Flash game, which got canceled after the movie did badly, and a Constantine game.
Constantine, really?
Yeah.
What would that have been like?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think like an adventure game where you get to cast spells would be fun. Or like a I don't know. I think maybe like a hybrid, like an action game where you could do combat, but also something that utilized. I mean, it's WB Games Montreal, so like the Arkham games maybe, where it's part like mystery solving, part.
See, I kind of picture it like almost like a whatchamacallit, Assassin's Creed open world kind of game. I guess that's kind of like the Arkham.
Yeah, an open world game, where something where you can really do.
But I would also make it part that and part RPG, where as you go on, you can learn different spells and do
Yeah.
different things. And
I mean, my favorite is that hybrid where you get it's like an action game that has RPG elements. Where yeah, you can
yeah,
like your Harry Potters, for example, where yeah, you have it has a skill tree and an RPG leveling system where you can upgrade your spells and whatever. Because he's a spell guy, right? So you want the ability to have spells. But yeah, somehow because he's to be fair, I'm not a big Constantine comic book guy. All of my knowledge
no,
of him comes from the Arrowverse and Matt Ryan, who is like Matt Ryan Constantine, in my opinion, is like he's like one of those guys who like is that character. You would know him by voice. Well, no, did you get to the point in the Flash where he showed up? Has he shown up on the Flash?
I don't think so, but I've seen him in enough of the animated DC
Yeah,
movies
he's
that
phenomenal in that.
I'm aware of him.
Yeah, he started off he started off he had his own show on NBC that got canceled, and then they brought him back to play him on Arrow, and he was just he floated in and out of Arrow. I don't know if he ever showed up on the Flash, and then they made him a regular on Legends of Tomorrow. And in the second or third season of that show initially starts off. It's kind of like sort of like Doctor Who, where it's like a time travel adventure show. But then I'm pretty sure it's the third season. He becomes a main lead character, and the season long arc is about him, and it becomes about magic. So it's like a science fiction fantasy show where like one of the episodes is they fight a unicorn, who is like it's the kind of unicorn mythology where like they're horrible predators who like stab people with their horns, and the show becomes amazing. And he's just really good. So he's up there for me as like almost like like Ryan Reynolds or like shoot, Hugh Jackman. People who are just like they're just that character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm struggling to think of one, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, where it's like they're just synonymous with that
They
character.
they are the character.
Yeah, like he's just one of those where it's like he is. Like, I don't think anyone else could play John Constantine. Like there's just no one better in my opinion.
I'm trying to think of another example. I mean, Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura.
Yeah, but I'm not more meant in terms of comic book characters.
I know.
Oh,
Grant Gu-
oh my God, staring me right in the face. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark.
Grant Gustin as the Flash.
Grant Gustin as the Flash. Yeah, where they're just like certain actors. They're just born to play that character. Like no one could play that character better, and he's just one of those. Where there's no one I think who could play John Constantine better. So Jordan, they've announced this a bunch of times, but it always pops up in my feed, and I thought it'd be a fun thought experiment. They've sort of announced that at Legendary, I like that company. The Magic the Gathering, they've sort of announced that they've got a TV universe and a movie universe kind of in the works, in development at Legendary, which is the company that did World of Warcraft and
Blizzard.
The Godzilla movies, the MonsterVerse movies.
They're doing what?
They're doing Magic the Gathering.
Interesting. Okay.
Um,
I'm not really as I mean I love playing the card game, but in terms of the actual lore and story of the world, I don't have as much of a fondness for that
okay,
as I do like Warcraft.
okay. Here's the experiment. What would you do? What do you do for Magic? I will tell you what my pitch for it is, and it might surprise you, but I want to hear what would you do with Magic the Gathering? Let's keep it simple, and we'll just say movie. You're making a movie.
Okay. If I'm doing a movie, I'm doing a movie where either one or two. I'm thinking like a group of friends, teenage friends from our world, are playing Magic the Gathering, and it's like the Dungeons and Dragons TV show, where they end up as planeswalkers in the Magic the Gathering world. Like they go through a portal into the world and become the planeswalkers, and they have magic abilities, and they can do the summoning, and
we have similar ideas. Yes, yeah. For people I guess who don't know, the in-universe kind of story of Magic the Gathering is like when you play the card game, you're a planeswalker who has the ability to summon interdimensional creatures from all kinds of dimensions and travel through different dimensions. So we kind of have a similar idea. Mine is kind of slightly different. And the only difference being is instead of going to the Magic the Gathering world, it would be a reverse. The Magic Gathering comes to our world, and it's like I basically do a chosen one narrative. I know it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Where it's like you have a main lead character, and the planes they basically get told that they're a planeswalker, and it's about them learning to like summon monsters and stuff. And then you have like a mentor character and like a comedic character, and then yeah, the Magic the Gathering like characters can like come to our world. That's my idea for it.
See, yeah, no, we've had just recently, we've had way too many X character comes to the real world movies. I want to go back to us goes into fantasy.
I mean, I'm not against that. I guess maybe I would do a blend of both, where like he has the planeswalker allows him to the like he can travel between like multiple different dimensions. I think maybe that'd be kind of fun.
That would be fun.
I just
See
the mechanic
what
of like walking planes would is just what I want. And then yeah,
yeah. I would set it up where it's like, yeah, in the first one, they, whatever the hero is, if there's multiples or not, go to the planes world. Maybe they learn it all from some wise master or something, and then set it up for the sequel, where in the sequel, that world starts to bleed over into our world, and that's where you have it more like you see like maybe a statue of one of the planeswalkers is replacing the Statue of Liberty, like it's like a blending of the worlds or something like that.
Like
to me, that's sequel material.
I'm sure there's like a hardcore Magic the Gathering fan that's like telling us we're like blasphemous, like there's a deep lore that we should give a shit about. But like I'm just like I just have one of the planeswalkers that's on one of the like I think Chandra is one of them. It just basically like have the iconic planeswalkers be like one of them is the bad guy, and then have it where it's like there's like multiple people from our world, they all become planeswalkers, and it's all about them learning how to like just don't do like a generic fantasy story, like involve the mechanic of like the number one reason to do a Magic the Gathering thing is to involve the mechanic of like playing the game in some way.
Yeah. And so like I want it where whatever the story ends up being, I want if any part of it comes from the real world, like assuming they don't just jump past the real world and just do a planeswalker story about one of the many heroes from that world. But if any part of it takes place in the real world, I want the Magic the Gathering card game to exist in our world so we can have the controversial and confusing question of, okay, so wait, did someone from the Planeswalkers world come to our world and create the card game?
Oh, man,
did the card game like...
they'll probably totally do that. Well, they'll do a Yu-Gi-Oh thing where they're like, these are actually a code for... No, these are actually ancient spells that have been distilled down to a basic card game.
I absolutely want that because it would be so ridiculous.
You'll just turn to Yu-Gi-Oh.
I think it'd be ridiculous, and I absolutely want that. That'd be funny. But then, I mean, I also think it would be hilarious. And this is one of the few times I would say this with like an anime type thing. I think a live action anime Yu-Gi-Oh movie would be hilarious to have real life people standing there with the cards and like going through all the same actions that the anime does. So funny. That would be hilarious.
I just can't believe that Japan hasn't. Yu-Gi-Oh would be very easy to do a live action version of. Like of the anime, it's the easiest to do. Like I mean, I would just make it. I would just give it I would make it look like aesthetically. I would make it look like that Speed Racer movie where everyone just looks like they do in the cartoon, but it's like extra exaggerated. Because I think that, or a better example would be if you've ever seen there's the Phoenix Wright movie, which they've tried to just make it look like the games in a way that
I haven't seen that.
Works for me, but it's funny. I would do the same thing with this, where I would give him the big stupid hair. Although I think it'd be funny if you completely tried to Americanize it and just took away all the hairstyles. I think it'd be funny too.
Either way, I just think the idea of seeing a group of people, like the people standing there with the cards, it has to be like the actual physical cards. Like you have to have the real cards.
I'm just like, you tried to do Attack on Titan multiple times, and you've never tried to do a Yu-Gi-Oh movie in live action. It would totally work. Right? You can't sit there and tell me it wouldn't work.
It would be way cheaper than an Attack on Titan or a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood with the suit.
Right? It's gotta be because you just have to like animate the holographic fights. Like, yeah, you could easily adapt the Duelist Kingdom into a live action movie. Like that, you could condense. You maybe cut out. You do just like the Weevil fight. You montage through his other duels, and then the climax he fights Joey. Or
I
certainly
mean,
you could do it in 2 movies at least. Maybe not 1, but definitely 2.
you could definitely do the Pegasus arc and speed through a lot of it.
Through a lot of it,
Like
I'm like,
that's the thing.
I'm like the 3 key points
Is
of that arc are his duel with Kaiba, his duel with Joey, and then his duel with Pegasus. The rest is entirely superfluous.
I would argue that
You could montage through this.
I would argue that the only other important one is the Weevil one,
Yeah.
and that's only important if you have the scene where they're on the ship going to Duelist Kingdom and he tosses Exodia.
It's so,
If you cut that scene, then you could cut Weevil.
What's really funny is, and I don't know if this will end up making it into the show, but it's really funny we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Because we talked about Yu-Gi-Oh! Yesterday when I recorded the Final Frontier, and
That's funny.
We joked about how like, why would you give the immediately suspicious guy your most valuable cards? Hey, guy who seems immediately suspicious, I'm just gonna immediately trust you. He coined a term he called Yu-Gi-Oh! Logic, which like I said I was gonna keep. I liked it. I like
That's
that.
great. The short answer is because it was Yugi, and I think Yugi is supposed to be like 13.
Yeah, he's stupid and naive because he's a child.
He's a child and thus an idiot.
So, Jordan, our final story, because I've cut 2 stories. Although maybe I'll just briefly mention, one of my stories was about Will Forte talking about that Acme. We always talk about it, but that Acme versus the Wile E. Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote.
He was like, "Oh, it's a freaking shame that got canceled." To wit, my response to that is maybe, hopefully, if enough people go watch Looney Tunes, when the day the Earth blew up. They might save it. I'm really hoping that saves it. So once again, go watch that movie when it's out in theaters. There, that's it. The final news story is, Jordan. We've talked about the Back to the Future 4. Back to the Future 4. When will Back to the Future 4 or a Back to the Future reboot happen?
Hopefully, never.
Yeah, okay, but Jordan, when will it actually happen?
Never.
No, you're not. No, I'm setting you up for a gag here. When will it actually happen?
When hell freezes over.
No, over Bob Gale's dead body.
I said the same thing.
Let's do that again. Jordan, when will Back to the Future 4 or Back to the Future reboot happen?
Over Bob Gale's dead body.
And Jordan, you'll never guess what Bob Gale had to say for fans hoping for a 4th entry to the iconic sci-fi franchise.
Fuck off.
Wow, you're close. He says, people always say when you're going to do Back to the Future 4, and we always say, fuck you.
Yeah, so I was close. Fuck off.
Never.
Fuck off and die.
When he dies, over his cold, dead body. When the minute he is dead, you will know he is dead because that's...
Breaking news. Man dies and Back to the Future 4 is announced immediately.
No, it'd be more like, breaking news, where they're making Back to the Future 4. Oh, Bob Gale must be dead. R.I.P. Condolences to his family.
So hell froze over.
Hell
Interesting.
froze over. Oh, should have done that thing to that guy from to Crispin Glover. There we go. Got there in the end. That's it. That's the news, Jordan. That's the news. So, Jordan, today's episode, every episode from now on is obviously, you go check out the Spur of the Moment Patreon, where you can, if you want to pay us $2 a month, which is like pennies a day. For pennies a day, you could feed us.
You could feed us a coffee. I'd probably buy like a coffee.
That'd buy a coffee. That'd buy me the occasional lunch.
One coffee.
For both
of us.
You could put in a buck, or if you want to, influence the show in any significant way. You're like, hey, they should watch a movie or a show, or like even if like one day you're like, oh hey, maybe we want to do like a fan movie night. Pay us, and we will take the time out of our week to do that. And you can do that by going to the spurofthemoment.com, the Patreon.
And if more of you do that, then we'll spruce the page up, add more options, more rewards, make it, better.
Make it better. Right now it's bare bones. If you go follow for free, and then enough you follow for free, maybe we'll spend some effort on it. But we are also this episode is also sponsored by, in case you didn't know, we are Amazon affiliates. And we have Amazon affiliate links. And today's episode, if you use our link, you can get, I know how I said I wasn't going to bring up the thing, Jordan. I'm currently forgetting it. So I'm going to pull it up so I can read it.
It was an Oculus with Batman Arkham Shadow.
If you use our link in the description, you get 13% off a Meta Quest 3S 256 gigabytes with Arkham Shadow, Batman Arkham Shadow, and a year off Meta Quest, I believe. And
three month trial of MetaQuest.
3-month trial of MetaQuest. And if you order it now, before February 12th, I believe. February 12th, yeah. You get free shipping. And yeah, you get a MetaQuest 2. And if you use our link, you help the show. You get a MetaQuest, you get a cool toy, and you help the show. So yeah, use our link.
Win.
We'll use our link and have it's a decent price for what that thing is. Those things are usually very expensive. It's under $500, I believe, which is pretty good deal, and you get 13% off. So that's pretty sweet. Yeah, use our link. Go do that.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Also,
do it.
If just this is just for people who maybe know me personally, if you're gonna buy something off Amazon, let me know. I make a commission now.
Do it.
That was the sponsorship section, George. It's time to move on to the main event, main part of the show. Main part of the day.
Da 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 da.
Main event, main report time. And this week, as we are in as previously discussed, our 100 era, 160 subscribers, as of this morning. Who knows? We maybe have more. Who's to say? Who's to say if maybe we gain more while the show has been going on? Jordan looked at the original. I don't remember what year the original list came out. AFI's, which is the American Film Institute's top 100 movies of all time. These are the movies that the American Film Institute have declared the American movies to be the greatest of all time. Jordan has the original list. And then, I believe it's 10 years afterwards, because they had the 10th anniversary list, they updated the list with more modern movies. Because I, as previously discussed, did a series on TikTok, because I was trying to make a series land, where I talked about these movies, and I tried to do a second season with the 10th anniversary version, and I got like 3 in, and I was so burnt out I never finished it. So I wanted to go back to this and maybe take a swing at some of the stuff I hadn't watched before. And Jordan had to select from the original list, and he had to pick some stuff he hadn't seen, and my one stipulation was he had to pick a Charlie Chaplin movie. So, spoiler alert, we're going to talk some Charlie Chaplin. But Jordan, let's rapid fire our way through some rapid fire. What's your first rapid fire?
My first rapid fire, we had to go back to 1937 and watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh god, that movie's really good.
It holds up very well.
Surprisingly well. It's also nice and short.
Yeah, well, it's an hour and a half.
Is it?
It's not the short. It's like an hour and a half.
Oh, I thought it was only an hour 20 for some reason.
It's like an hour and a half. I mean, it's a classic for a reason. It's the animation is, especially for when it came out, like it's
right.
a hand-drawn cell animation.
It's very pretty.
Very, very pretty. Had a budget of 1.5 million, and the box office.
What is that?
Is for.
I wonder what that shakes out to with inflation.
I'm not sure. I just know that it says with international earnings more than 8 million during its initial release against a 1.5 million budget.
I mean, it's sort of
becoming the highest grossing film of 1938.
It's sort of the reason why Walt Disney was as successful as it was, because nobody thought that movie was going to do well, and it was very, very expensive because animation is very expensive. and yeah, it's really good. That movie,
It was it was re-released theatrically many times until its home video release in the 1990s.
yep. Um, I yeah, that movie Mandela affected me because I didn't realize that there was like a reprise of Hi Ho. Because I think one point I had a discussion with someone where it was like, it's off to work you go, and it's like, and then I was always like, home from work we go. I'm like, those aren't the lyrics. That's wrong. It's off to work I go. It's like, oh
Yeah, and then
because there's
later
two
in the
times they
movie,
sing it.
yeah, later in the movie when they head off to work, it then it becomes it's off to work we
I was like, I don't
go.
remember them singing this twice. I Mandela affected myself. Um,
Um,
but also, yeah, I think
but yeah,
I've made this joke before that Snow White is insufferably perfect in that movie. She's just nice and just. And I also like. She's also incredibly dumb. Like the ending where he's like,
no, Justin, naive.
I mean, she doesn't.
She's
She
naive,
doesn't
which is
listen.
which is a nice way of saying dumb.
She doesn't listen very well because Doc very specifically is like, hey, don't trust anybody who isn't us who comes knocking at the door. And Snow White's like, I'm gonna eat that apple.
It looks so good, and I'm trusting and naive,
You don't listen very well,
which is just a fancy way of saying stupid.
right? I really needs to practice those active listening skills, is what I'm saying. Um,
But yeah, it's Disney's first movie.
yes, it is.
And
What a first movie!
what a first outing.
What
And
a
it
first outing!
launched it's the movie that launched a big career. I mean, we all know Disney. What else can I really say
Right?
about Snow White?
It's iconic for a friggin' reason.
It's stood the test of time, and even in 2025, it is an enjoyable watch.
Right? Right? So yeah, this is a darn good movie. Is that it, Jordan? Is that it for Snow White?
That is it. Apparently, when it premiered, the film received a standing ovation at its completion.
I understand why. I mean, look,
I
I would like to
I
get
do.
I would like to get a standing ovation, upon completion.
I'm not playing this game with you. I'm not. No.
Anyway,
What's your
so
first rapid fire?
with these movies, a lot of these movies, I become really interested in like we always talk about putting a movie like in its context or in its time, and like with a list like this, you really have to do that. And so my first movie I watched was a movie called Network, which came out in the 1970s. And okay, I'm gonna try to do this as fast as I can. But Network, very very briefly, is about Howard Beadle, I believe is his last name, a network news anchor who, due to low ratings, is about to be canceled and taken off the air. And he's being forced to retire after I think a certain amount, very long time of being a news anchor, and he freaks out and has a break, or he freaks out and he threatens to kill himself on national TV, and everyone is so indifferent that they're not really paying attention, and they all go, wait, did he just say he was going to kill him? So he's like, in a week from now I'm going to come back here and I'm going to blow my brains out on national television. And so then they fire him, and they give him basically he asks for the opportunity, because of all my years of service, can I go on the air and basically apologize for doing that. And he goes back on the air and he does the same thing. He starts to freak out again. He's like it's all bullshit. The world's bullshit. Everything's bullshit. And they start to talk about the whole, basically the major overarching plot of the movie is that this corporation is taking over this company which owns this news company, and they're slowly trying to corporatize news, which may sound familiar to you because that's kind of what Fox News and CNN is.
What? No, that's not what our real world has become.
Corporately owned news. And so, he wants an opportunity. So he's like, it's all bullshit. The people who control this are this corporation, the name of the corporation. And this sparks the lead director of programming, who like just wants to make sensationalist television. She's like, well, what if we had a program where it was like major crimes, the major crime hour, or like, you know, the major traffic accident hour, like just horrific stuff. And she just says it like gleefully and coldly. And it's like what she's describing just is kind of what social media is, or like, where it's like, imagine this, or like, yeah, like late night news programs, like imagine that, or true crime, like she's describing true crime before true crime programs existed, of like, imagine if we watched the show where it was about these horrific murders. Like a running subplot throughout the movie is there's this black, basically they're like the Black Panthers, like this black rights movement who like rob banks as a political statement, and she, because of the First Amendment rights, has created a show where she follows them around, but they don't get arrested because it's a television show.
That's insane.
Right? And so he goes on this huge rant, and she wants to put him on the TV and just let him rant incoherently about his gripes about the world. This,
I'm pretty sure that's literally an episode of Black Mirror.
Sort of, yeah, but the wild shit is that's we have that. I mean, not even just on the right. I mean, that's what the Daily Show is. Like on the left, that's what Tucker Carlson is. Like that, like this show that like he eventually like goes and see, like it gets to a point where he talks to God and thinks he's like delivering a message from God. And he's clearly a man having like a mental episode that like all these people are just like exploiting to put on television, and they end up like he becomes this like weird evangelist, like preacher kind of guy, where he's just being like, it kind of takes this weird anti or Islamophobic bend where he's like, it's the Arabs are trying to take over America, they're trying to buy everything. And
when did this come out?
1979.
Yeah, so that checks out. That tracks.
I probably said the wrong date, but it's the 1970s. And you might recognize one scene from remember in Better Call Saul, and I think it's season 1, where he
chicanery?
No, not chicanery. It's the bit where he confronts Howard in the boardroom. He's like, you have defied the primal laws of nature! And he turns off the light.
Vaguely, yeah.
That's from this movie. And so this is the CEO of the guy who owns the corporation, where he's like, you think that what you're saying is making a difference? You think that you know what the world is really controlled by? Corporations. Corporations are the one who control. It's about corporations just passing power to each other. That's what it's about. And this movie presents the notion of editorializing the news, of putting opinion into news, and doing anything other than presenting the news as cold hard fact, as utterly abhorrent and something that should never be done. And this movie comes like the 24-hour news cycle was like started in like the I think it was like 81 I saw, and this came out like 70 something. I'm gonna actually look it up. But it was like this movie came out in 71, and the 24-hour news cycle started in like the 80s. So it predicted the 24-hour news cycle and warned us about how horrible and dehumanizing it is. And then the movie ultimately ends with he starts preaching like all this doom and gloom stuff that the head of the company wants him to do, and the head of the company refuses to pull him off the air. So all of these television people ultimately have him assassinated. And they're just like in a room coldly discussing about like how to quote deal with him. But it's just like, yeah, this movie is so ahead of its time, and it saw 1976, and I think that the 24-hour news cycle began in like 82, and just like the idea that the movie saw our current media landscape coming. These people saw it coming in 1976, and then they let it happen anyway. Like, the first time I watched this movie, it upset me so much, because I'm like, they knew what they were doing, and then they did it anyway, and it made me so mad.
Of course, Justin. They saw the iceberg, they heard the warning, and they drove directly for it.
Just right into it. But it's a good movie. It's also it's supposed to be a comedy, and it is funny. There's a lot of really funny one-liners in it. It's a good movie. It's well performed, and it absolutely deserves to be on this list. It's also on your list. These are the ones that are on both of our lists. This is also on your list.
Got
Hey,
it.
if you
No,
if you
Snow White deserved to be on the list.
yeah, absolutely, Snow White deserved to be on the list. I don't remember what number it is. I can't be bothered to look it up. I believe.
Oh, I'm not going to even try and say what position these
I
ones are.
believe this one was kind of more in the middle of the list from what I recall. But that's it. That's Network. It's really quite good.
So, we now travel to 1981. Also, I'm not doing these in timeline order, so we're just going to be jumping back. We're going to be time traveling all
Yeah,
over the place.
these developed a theme, but they're in no particular order. No.
Um, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where
Ah,
it
good
where
movie.
it, where it began with the Indiana Jones
I
movies,
maintain
and
the only
I
good
argue,
one.
well, I was going to say it's if the rest are a 6, this one's an 8.
Like, yeah, for sure. My thing with it was when you say it's always stuck in my brain, and we say it every time we talk about Indiana Jones, and that's Jordan. That Indiana Jones, all the Indiana Jones movies are
Of relative quality to
of
each other.
relative quality to each other. Like I just you can't sit there criticize Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and watch the first one, wherein it makes no sense that Marion is alive. That makes no sense. Also, the fact that he dated her when she was a teenager is icky.
Yeah, and also Indiana Jones could play no part in this movie, and it would have the same
I
results.
mean, yes, as that has been pointed
The
out.
the Nazis would still find the Ark of the Covenant. They would still open it, and their faces would still be
It was
melted
still
off.
melted off. Um, I mean, it's still a fun movie, but yeah, that's the Maid Marian showing up in the second half of the movie. There's no point, like, because I believe it's like he runs off with her in the basket on top. She gets caught on fire, and then she just shows up in the third act. And there's no point in that thing where she would have had time to escape. Like, it makes no sense. She shouldn't be alive. I'm pretty sure after this, I'm going to probably go back and watch what I said about these individual movies, but I'm almost entirely positive that's what I said about it. Like, how can you say the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull doesn't make any sense when the first one also doesn't make any sense? It just is not the point of these movies.
All I know is that the Ark is being looked after by top men,
By
Justin.
top bureaucrats.
Top men.
Winky face. Winky face. Anyway, Grant,
Now, do I think this deserves to be on the list of top 100? Definitely more than some of the movies that I watched do.
definitely. See, I didn't watch any of the bad ones, so I yeah.
Well, that is relative.
No, in this case, there's some real bad movies on that list. Or at the very least, they're really boring. Like, there's no universe where I was going to be like, Jordan, you should watch Dr. Zhivago. That movie was really bad. I thought that movie was so. I learned a lot about the Russian Revolution because I got so bored during that movie. I was just reading Wikipedia articles about the Russian Revolution.
I see. I understand. I definitely felt like in this one, Harrison Ford wanted to do this, whereas I don't believe that he did for a good chunk of them.
No, I mean, this one he definitely does. Yeah, the other ones, no. Well, certainly as they went on, I truly don't believe he like that fourth one had to be a paycheck. It just had to be.
Yeah. And there's just also the fact that as it goes on, he gets older, the effects get lamer.
Right.
Because he physically can't do things when he's 70.
Right.
Whereas in this one, it's believable that he is I don't know if he actually is doing any of the stunts, but it's believable that the character is, because the actor who is playing the character is an age which would be appropriate to do some of the activities that he is doing.
I think that movie is like, yeah, it's like an amusement park ride. It's not, you're not meant to think about it. It's just fun. You're just meant to have fun.
I agree.
Is that it for Indiana Jones? First Indiana Jones, the only good Indiana Jones. Ha, I said it. I stand by it. Okay, when are you doing Charlie Chaplin?
It's the last rapid fire.
Okay, then I'm gonna swap some shit around. Let's do let's
I
do.
figured, I figured as it was a specifically requested thing, it should be highlighted as the final thing.
Fair enough. Okay, let's do Doctor Strange Love or How I wait. I have to listen to the full title. Let's do the full title. Let's make sure that was the entire joke in my first video. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Doctor Strange Love.
Dr. Bob Ross.
Doctor Strange Love. Sorry, let's try this again. So my next one, Jordan, is a movie called Doctor Strange Love or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, which is it came out in 19 what year did it come out in? The 1970s, 60s. 1964, directed by Stanley Kubrick of The Shining, 2001 fame, and it's basically it's about a general goes insane and basically activates the program that sends out a bunch of fighter jets that will drop coordinated nuclear bomb strikes on Russia, effectively igniting nuclear war between the Cold War era movie, the Soviets and and America, and the movie is basically them, the government, and all the various people involved in a scenario like that, trying to stop it, like pulling back the planes. At one point, the general who does it, like he's barricaded in a room with this British soldier, and it's basically him. He's basically justifying why he's done this thing, and then later in the movie, you find out that the Russians have created a doomsday machine, which will effectively, when it detects, essentially it removes the human element from it, and it's set up so that the minute it detects that anyone has dropped a nuclear bomb, it kills everybody.
Got it. So
And
it's a no-win scenario.
pretty much, yeah. And it's supposed to be the official deterrent. And there's a character, the main title character, Doctor Strangelove. He shows up later, and he's like, the one bad thing you did with this is you didn't tell anybody about it, because it doesn't do us any good if nobody knows about it. And he's like, yeah, we were going to announce it tomorrow, and then oopsie.
Whoopsie daisy.
And yeah, it's supposed to be a comedy, and there's a lot of really funny scenes of like, it's a comedy, but it's also kind of a harrowing movie because it's just really arrogant men sitting in a room casually talking about like people who will do, like there's a point where one of the generals is like, oh yeah, we could strategically bomb all of these different locations all at once and effectively prevent them from get them before they get us. And he's like, we've calculated an acceptable civilian casualty list. And I didn't like that. I'm like, acceptable civilian casualty. Like, that's gross. And the movie begins with this like warning that the Air Force insists that this could never happen in real life, and just the notion that like the whole world could be ended on the whim of like one guy. It gets to the end, and the general, he's barricaded in the office, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm not afraid. What he's like his whole thing is he's done this because he's concerned that the Russians are poisoning the American population with fluoride, slowly making them dumber, which is a very, very popular conspiracy theory. And he's gone complete. And there's a moment where he's like, oh yeah, the British guy genuinely thinks there's been this Russian attack. And he's explaining why he's done. The general's explaining why he's done this. And there's this really great shot of his like slow realization of him being like, oh no, he's gone insane. He's telling him about this fluoride stuff, and he's like, it's in everything, and you can tell, yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's really kind of upsetting. Like, you're like, well, why did no one prevent this clearly insane man, from rising into the ranks in power? Why is he in charge of this stuff? A clearly absurdly insane, conspiracy riddled man in charge of something that can be so easily like misused.
This mentally unstable person.
And then he has a line where he's like, "Yeah, I'm not afraid to die because I know where I'm going." And I went, "Yeah, hell. Like you're going to hell. You're like if you believe in the
I mean,
concept,
if you believe in that
if
sort
you
of
believe in
thing,
the con
you're either going to hell or you're disappearing.
right? Like if you believe in that sort of thing, you committed the greatest mass genocide in the history of mankind. You're like the worst human being in existence. You're not going to heaven.
You're not going to the good
You
place.
did a big old murder. You're going to the bad place. You're a bad person. You're a very bad person. You're selfishly taking away all like billions of lives. I don't know. This was the '60s, so maybe only millions, but still, bad person.
I mean, trillion of
But there's a
lives.
lot of really funny scenes where they're talking to the Soviets. They've got this like line of communication to the Soviets, and he's talking to the Soviet ambassador. He's like, no, Chekhov, no, we didn't do it, Chekhov. That wasn't us. We wouldn't do no, Chekhov. You're getting upset, Chekhov. We both know how you get. I need you to calm down. I need you to come on. And I just picture like that's how like modern politics works of just like him phoning the Japanese. Come on, man, just get with the program. Yeah, it's just the notion of like with these movies, they found the idea of a conspiracy riddled lunatic being put in any sort of bit of power to be to be put in
Ridiculous.
power. They found that notion to be ridiculous, and then you see like Marjorie Taylor Greene being like Jewish space lasers, and you're like, this movie found the notion of these kinds of people being in government to be ridiculous, to be something worthy of mockery, and here they are. Like it's just crazy how many.
Well, I mean, one could argue that movies like that are the reason why people like that are able to get into power, is because movies like that made it seem so ridiculous that no one ever believed that it could happen, and now it's happened.
Yeah, it's just like
You underestimate a problem, and it becomes bigger.
my thing with this week was it was just kind of how fascinating how many of the movies I went, wow, this is still relevant. This is still an issue. This is still so this is something that this movie finds to be, and there's the same thing with Network was this is something that uh that this movie finds ridiculous that we just let happen. Like, wow. Also, there's a shot in this movie. The thing that's funny about old movies is the thing that people don't get is Looney Tunes. We talked about Looney Tunes earlier. I mean, you kind of talked about this off air, but the Looney Tunes they did a lot of pop culture references. Like if you want to see truly how badly pop culture references date, a lot of Looney Tunes jokes are like specific references. So I don't know if you remember. There's a really old Bugs. I think it's the one with where he goes up against the Gremlin, but it's one of the ones that takes place during the war, and it ends, I believe, with Bugs Bunny like riding a bomb out of a plane and like going yeehaw like that.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
That is parodying this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that scene. Maybe it wasn't Looney Tunes. Maybe it's something else. But like I know I've seen something where it was making fun. That's from this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But yeah. Again, funny, very funny, very relevant. Yeah, absolutely. It does. It's a really good movie, and it's still weirdly relevant. My only real criticism is the actual Doctor Strangelove is his character doesn't make any sense. Like he's this weird German guy who like he's a Nazi who's still kind of a Nazi. Like he tries at one point he calls the president Mein Führer, and he's like, I mean, Mr. President, but he keeps doing
Mr. President.
there's this weird like running gag where he keeps like squirming in his chair, and then just out of nowhere, like, he's in a wheelchair, he keeps squirming in his wheelchair, and then out of nowhere at the end of the movie, the last line of the movie, he stands up and he's like, I can walk. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not a very particularly funny joke.
Okay, that's out of nowhere.
Yeah, for me it felt like it came out of nowhere. I don't know. Maybe it was like paying off a gag I didn't get. This week I'm positive when I eventually make some of these into YouTube videos later, somebody is going to yell at me about how I didn't get it in at least one of these videos.
Probably.
Sorry, George. No,
Probably.
that's not fair. That's not fair. How we
Us.
didn't get it.
Yeah, they'll yell at us.
Yeah, they yell at us about how we didn't get it because we're uncultured swines.
Like there's a few on here which I'm sure I'm gonna catch shit for.
I have yet to catch shit for being like, this is a bad movie. Maybe that'll change this week. That's it.
Is that all you have to say?
That's it. That's
Any illuminating final thoughts?
No, that's Doctor Strange Love, or do you want to try it? How I Learned to Stop Worrying and
How I Learned to Stop Worrying and
Love the Bomb.
Love the Bomb.
All together now, Jordan. Doctor Strange
Love and How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Well, then I guess it's time we move on to my next rapid fire. It's a movie that I'm sure people have heard of called Pulp Fiction.
One of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies.
Now, I'm gonna
Jordan,
catch shit for this one.
Are you okay?
Are
you okay?
I'm okay.
John, I'm pretty fucking far from being okay.
No, but I'm okay. I'm okay, Justin.
That's fair.
What?
What?
What? Say what? One more time! One more time! I dare you! I double dare you, motherfucker!
I still love that movie.
So,
I understand what you're about to say, though.
Pulp Fiction is 4 intertwining tales of crime and violence. That's what it's described as on the Wikipedia. So my main issue with this movie, and this maybe it has more to do with how my brain works, and maybe I'm the problem. It being four stories that aren't one consecutive story makes it harder for my brain to follow.
Yeah, to be fair, normally I'm not I can't stand that. Like, I hated when Beyond Two Souls did that. Like,
I was just gonna say, like it's, to me, it's my Beyond Two Souls where it makes it less enjoyable.
Or like
because I'm like literally there was a point where you came out and you were talking to me and I was like, okay, so explain this to me. This one character died in the previous scene. How is he alive again? And you had to explain to me how he was alive.
Yeah, because this takes place earlier, before that scene happened. Yeah, no.
I didn't get that. Like, I didn't get that at all.
It's not even so much that they're vignettes. Like, I don't mind that they're vignettes. I quite like that about how Quentin Tarantino does storytelling. But I don't think it being out of order. That is because that is an independent art house film, and Quentin Tarantino is up his own asshole. That's why. That's why that is.
Like,
he'd be like, it's for artistic reasons.
It doesn't work for me because of that.
But I
like individual scenes in this movie. I love the final vignette where we have
Samuel L. Jackson
Samuel L. Jackson in the diner.
Yeah,
talking to the two people from the beginning, and like, I love that. That scene's so good. There's a lot of individual scenes, but as a whole,
yeah,
I think that as a whole, because you've diced and cut this up and mangled it, it's not a good movie.
Oh no, I can't abide by. It is a phenomenal movie.
No, it's good scenes of a movie which have been cut up, and it's no longer. It's four stories.
Yeah,
it's not a movie.
You know, movies don't have to be told in consecutive order. That is a style of storytelling. So no, it is a movie. It is very much a movie, and
it doesn't work for me.
But man, so many icons. I mean, I love the opening scene where they're just chatting, and then it pulls back, and it turns out they're robbing the place. That's funny. I mean, so many. I just thought that was a badass thing to say when you pop someone. Very funny. Yeah. Say what again? Royale with cheese. Oh, Jordan, we can't talk about what happens in the scene. That's not PG. But we can we?
There's a scene where his enemy has something horrible happen to him, and by the end of it, him and his enemy agree to basically be like respect.
I love that. Not that I love, but that scene is one of my favorite escalation of events in a movie ever, because it just starts with Bruce Willis like casually walking down the street, and then they walk into each other just completely accidentally, and like I love the bit of them both being like, Ving Rhames is really, like, he's got some great lines in this. Yeah, I'm pretty fucking far from okay. Where he just there's that extended chase sequence that like out of nowhere leads them into that basement. It's just phenomenal writing. It's good writing, and like
That, and
dialogue
that's
is
where I
just so
say,
good.
like, I like I like the stories in this, and it's a really weird scenario where it's like I like everything about this movie other than the fact that it's out of chronological order. That sours it
There
for me
might be a
quite a bit.
version. There might be a version of this where someone's edited it back into order. I wouldn't be surprised if there was.
No, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the way that it was intended to be watched, and then the question of, do I think it deserves to be on that list?
Oh, it absolutely does.
I think that the scenes do, yes, but the way that it's spliced together, no.
I mean, fair enough. No, man, I completely disagree. That movie pioneered a lot of filmmaking techniques that, like, yeah, and his dialogue. That's, to be fair, but also to be fair, that I say that with the asterisk and the caveat that I don't know that it's my favorite. I don't know that it's my favorite. I really love Pulp Fiction. Don't get me wrong, and I need to preface this with that, but I don't know that it's my favorite. I think that might still be Django. I just really like Django.
I like Django more.
I really like Django.
I think that has everything to do with the fact that that's a coherent story that's told in proper order.
Yeah, but like, I mean, to be fair, would you say this is better than The Hateful Eight?
I've never watched The Hateful Eight.
You have absolutely watched The Hateful Eight.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, we watched that one. That was a double feature. That was the one we watched after. Remember when we watched The Wind Rises? We watched it after that. No, we watched it before that. Well, you've definitely seen it. We watched it. And
like, I have no memory of that. So yeah. by that nature alone, I would have to say that I was already aware of this one and knew things about it going into it, so it's better on that principle alone.
Yeah, fair enough.
And that's where I say, like, I want to really preface this with, like, I like this movie, and I like the scenes in it, and I like that, like, I like everything about this movie other than the way that it was told.
Like not love. But yeah, no, I absolutely do think it.
Like, if that makes any sense. Like, if this movie was in proper order,
yeah,
we would be having a very different conversation.
My only thing is just like,
it has everything to do with the fact that of how it was edited together.
My one strike against it is just Quentin Tarantino says the N-word entirely too much.
You're not wrong.
He's just entirely for no real reason. He has no reason to say it. Doesn't add anything to that scene. It's not really necessary for that character. I like that scene ultimately. I think that scene is very funny. I quite like Mr. Wolf. I think he's a funny character. But he didn't need to say the N-word that much.
You're not gonna hear me disagree.
I get like Django. He's like in like the era of history where he can, but yeah, in that one he doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard tie between Django. I really like Christoph Waltz. He is typically the best thing in things I otherwise don't like. Like, he's the best and only good thing in that Green Hornet movie that's bad.
I will say, I wish this had more Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's my thing about Quentin Tarantino movies, is he sets up characters who are way more interesting than the characters you end up seeing, and then they're barely so. Like, the most, well, I mean, hey, maybe people will disagree with this take, but the most interesting characters in Pulp Fiction is the Vincent Vega and Jules, the Samuel Jackson and John Travolta characters. Like, I just don't think the Bruce Willis character is really his storyline is just not that interesting.
No, I mean,
this movie could have probably been an hour and a half.
He's fine, but quite frankly, his storyline is its own movie.
Right? I could do without the sexual assault.
Like, I don't really need him in this.
Right?
I'm way more although I still think it's funny how and this has everything to do with the fact that I fell asleep the first time I watched it. But I still find it funny how I didn't realize for the longest time that John Travolta's character and Samuel L. Jackson's were supposed to be hitmen. I thought they were dirty cops or dirty
Yeah.
detectives
See,
or
you can be forgiven. I never thought hitman. I just thought like general muscle or
they're
enforcers.
they're from what I was like what I read, they're defined as hitman.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I believe you. I never read them as that. Jordan, is that it? Is that
Um,
Pulp Fiction?
yeah. So yeah, ultimate thoughts is it deserves to be on the list. Um, but I think it would have been higher on the list if it was not edited the way that it was.
Yeah. I mean, what the metrics are for what puts something higher on the list, I will never understand because, in my opinion, just just by default, I would argue that Birth of a Nation is probably substantially worse than Pulp Fiction.
I think that's at the bottom of the list, isn't it?
What, Birth of a Nation?
Yeah.
Nope, it's like somewhere in the middle. Pulp Fiction is much lower. Pulp Fiction, I think, is in like the 90s. I watched that one pretty early on.
Hold on, I'm gonna try and find it while you talk about your next thing.
All right. So my next one, speaking of movies with uncomfortable sexual assaults, my next one is a movie called The Shawshank Redemption, which is I guess technically Morgan Freeman is the main character. He's the narrator, and he tells the story of Andy Dufresne, who comes to Shawshank, and I guess for whatever reason I've seen this movie. I think like this is now the second or third time I've watched it, and like you know how Hollywood does that thing where a great deal of time passes, but like the actors don't really get all that noticeably older, so you don't really notice that a whole bunch of time passes unless you're really paying attention to the movie.
Yes.
So like I never got that he was in Shawshank prison for 18 years and that it took him 18 years to dig out that hole.
To slowly chip away at the wall.
Yeah, like I never for whatever reason I never like I guess I knew that it took him a while, but I never realized it was like that long.
I thought it was like 5 years or something
Yeah,
like
no, it was
that.
like 18, almost 20 years it took him. Because Morgan Freeman has a line where he's like, I sort of could, or I said that it would take 100 years to dig your way out of Shawshank with a thing like that. He did it in 18. And just like I want Morgan Freeman to narrate my life. I know everyone says that and it's a real cliche, but I feel like he could maybe make my life more interesting.
I mean, he can make anyone's life more interesting. He's Morgan goddamn Freeman.
It's true. He is Morgan Freeman.
No, he's Morgan goddamn Freeman. You got to use his middle name, Justin.
Morgan. And it's also funny because this is maybe the first time I've paid the most attention to it. Everyone's gonna be like, Justin, you're stupid. I mean, everyone always says Justin, you're stupid, but I completely missed the fact that he didn't do it.
Justin, you're stupid.
I know.
See, everyone says it.
Everyone says it, but yeah, I missed the fact that he didn't do it. I've always thought that he did it, and
44.
No. What?
Birth of a Nation is 44.
Yeah, it's too high. It's entirely too high. Yeah, I had no idea that. What did I just say?
That he didn't do it.
That he didn't do it. I missed that. I always thought that he did it until the end, and the reason why he escapes is because he finds that he didn't do it. That triggers the escape. I like totally didn't get that, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, Justin, that's dumb. You're dumb. But yeah, that's something new I learned this time around. That's what happens when you actually pay attention to movies, Jordan.
You do tend to learn more when you actually pay
You
attention to
learn a
them.
bunch more.
But also, Justin, this movie teaches the lesson that if you want freedom, you got to crawl through a mile of shit to get there.
Right. Yeah, I know that's. And also, it's just kind of incredible to me that this book was written by Stephen King, because I guess I suppose there's I can't. I start to wind up and be complimentary, but I'm like, no, there's what I have to imagine is probably an explicitly described assault scene that happens in this movie that is from the book. I have to imagine he described it graphically. There's no way he didn't, right? He's Stephen King.
I mean, the record tends to show that is the trend that he leans towards.
Because, as previously discussed, Jordan, he's
Fucked up.
He's fucked up. He's so fucked up, Jordan. So yeah,
Please,
that was a comment we got.
please,
That
please don't sue us. Estate of Stephen King.
or Stephen
Is he
King.
is he dead?
No,
Is he alive?
He's alive. He responds to people on Twitter sometimes.
Okay.
He claps back.
Please don't sue us, Stephen
You
King.
see, he'd respond to me probably. It was the '80s and cocaine was a hell of a drug. Probably how he'd respond to me. And like, well, I get it. He's still fucked up, man. Speaking of comment response, we got a comment that said that that library policeman wasn't that bad. It was that bad. It was that bad. I'm gonna spare you. There might be some of you who are tempted to go find out and prove me wrong. Don't. It's that bad. Often I say to Jordan, just trust me, Jordan. Just trust me on this.
I trust you.
Good. It is correct instinct.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda Forever. No, it's a really good movie. Really emotional, really good. Yeah, everyone's good in it. It's a really good movie. It deserves to be on this list. Okay, I can't remember. This is a new one. That's on the new list, and I cannot be bothered to look what it replaced, but it knocked something off, or whether or not it knocked something off. But this is off of the new list. Came out in '97.
I understand. I understand what you're trying to say. Wakanda forever.
Wakanda sometimes.
Wakanda occasionally.
Wakanda never. Jordan, it's your turn.
Never?
Jordan, what's your next one?
Never?
Never.
Wow.
Wakanda never. What's your next one?
My next one was the 1933 version of King Kong. Which I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep through the end of it, but felt no guilt about not going back and finishing it because, I mean, it's still just King Kong, and I've seen the ending of King Kong.
I mean, yeah, he climbs up the building and he does not climb down.
He goes up there, and while he does come down, it is not under his own volition.
So did you say you watched the 19? Yeah, that movie's good. That movie, the special effects are incredible for the era.
The 1933 one for the era, it's pretty impressive.
Oh, it's incredible. My favorite bit. I just love how King Kong is an absolute monster. Like my favorite bit in that movie is where he steps on, like he crushes the guy, and then he knocks the guy over, throws the guy, and then he steps on him and makes sure he finishes the job. He's like double tap. He's like it does the close up on King Kong's face as you just see him squish the guy.
It's also the first film in the King Kong franchise.
It absolutely is the first film in the King Kong franchise.
So it was technologically for when it came out, it was pretty damn good.
It's just an impressive movie.
Apparently.
Ray Harryhausen, by the way, did the special effects of that. He is an absolute special effects genius. Pioneered so many techniques.
It had a budget of $672,254,075. And it had a box office of $5.3 million, which is equivalent to $124.75 million in 2023.
Wow, yeah, man, incredibly successful movie. Very good. This guy's a good movie, and I don't think it's overly long like the Peter Jackson one. I think it's like an hour and a half. Very concise.
And
pacing's very good.
And fun fact, the characters and story have since entered the public domain.
Oh,
Film's copyright. Oh, so the original characters and story have since entered the public domain. The film's copyright is set to expire in 2029.
Oh, soon you can make your own Kong movie. As long as it.
But I guess the characters and story you can make a Kong movie of now.
That makes sense. I'm surprised there hasn't been a bunch of knockoffs of King Kong. I guess there has been like Mighty Joe Young, and I guess there technically has been.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's been a lot of things of that nature.
But yeah, that movie deserves to be on that list because it is a absolute pioneer in special effects. Like the stop motion animation that is involved in bringing Kong to life, looks incredible.
Yeah, King Kong is well known for its groundbreaking use of special effects, stop motion animation, matte painting, rear projection, and miniatures.
Absolutely, yeah.
All of which were conceived decades before the digital age.
Right. What year did that come out again? Sorry.
30, what did I say? 33, 30 something? 30,
1933.
33.
Yeah, when you put yourself into
Yeah.
the mind of someone from 1933, that movie would be mind blowing. That movie would be like, yeah, the modern equivalent of watching like Godzilla 1. Like, it would be mind blowing. You're like, wow, that's a really big monkey. It's a very
Yeah,
big monkey.
the prehistoric creatures inhabiting Skull Island were brought to life through the use of stop motion animation by Willis H. O'Brien. Uh, there's a lot of names here, which I'm not going to read.
Are they not Ray Harryhausen effects? I guess they must not be Ray Harryhausen effects. I may have misspoke.
I just know that it's
But yes, groundbreaking shit. That cannot be understated.
uh, special effects crew could not leave the studio during the day because the lighting would not be consistent. Jungle scenery was created by layering glass paintings,
Oh, neat.
which were created by Mario Larinaga and Byron L. Crabb. And the most difficult task for the special effects crew was to make live action footage interact with separately filmed stop motion animation,
Yeah, which would have been tough.
which would have been hard. They had to use basically they had to use a process called matte to
Yeah, that's what the term matte paint
to make it all work. So yeah, it was a technological marvel, and it definitely deserves to be on this list. And that's a little bit of a history of King Kong for you. Justin, rapid fire, yours next. Go.
Just real quick back on King Kong. What's it? No, nothing. No, that's it. My next one. No, this is the question. Okay, so this the whole genesis of doing top 100 is I wanted to answer the question: is Citizen Kane the greatest movie of all time? And so I watched 99 movies to answer that question, and I got to the end of it. And Jordan, do you want to know if Citizen Kane is the greatest movie of all time?
I do. Tell me now. Do it. Go.
I don't know. That's a question I've put out into the universe a bunch of times, and this is one of those ones where I'm really hoping when, once again, this inevitably becomes a YouTube video, that somebody in the comments will tell me, is this the greatest movie of all time? Because no, like, it's a really good movie for reasons that I'm gonna get into. It's a very good movie, but it's a very relevant movie, given what's happening in America. But it's not. It's not. Like, I've just seen more influential movies that we've talked about today so far that are better. Like, I've just seen better, more technically impressive. Like, there's nothing really technically impressive in this movie. Like, Star Wars, I would argue, is more influential than this. Like,
So why do people call this the greatest of all time?
I can't really figure out why. Every review I read was just like contemporarily, everyone said it was really, really good. It was like a masterpiece, and then like returning reviews said the same thing. Sorry, I've this is a really long introduction to say that Citizen Kane. Jordan, do you know what Citizen Kane is about? Jordan, okay, let's do this. Jordan, what do you think Citizen Kane is about?
Well, I always thought that Back to the Future, the game, was homaging it with Citizen Brown. So I'm guessing it's about a judge who creates a police state.
Wow, you are very off. No, the only thing. Sorry, I should have done what Jake does. No, no, it has nothing to do. Citizen Brown is really just a reference in name only. Basically, Citizen Kane is about. It's a biographical film about the life of media magnate and mogul Charles Foster Kane. And at the beginning of the movie, you see he is at the end of his life. He's an old man. He dies. He's got a hourglass in his hand, and he's like Rosebud.
Rosebud.
And then he dies. And then the mystery of the movie is, who is Rosebud? Why did he say
It was
Rosebud?
a sled.
Whoa,
It
whoa,
was
no,
a
no, 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 no.
sled.
Okay. He's like, yeah, he says, well, who is this Rosebud? And yes, Jordan's already ruined the joke. That's okay, I forgive you. That I knew that twist going into this movie because of that stupid Family Guy bit where, yes, he's indeed like, it was his sled. It was his sled from when he was a child. There, I just saved you, heirs. I just saved you 2 boring, boobless hours. And that gag, that cutaway really does completely ruin the end of this movie because you otherwise have no clue. Like, there's no hinting at it. There's no setup for it. There's no rhyme or reason for the sled to. For Rosebud to be the sled, there's no reference to it. There's no acknowledgement of it. The whole thing is this. Yeah, it's this reporter basically interviewing the people in his life and finding out more and more information of how he was like a poor child, and when he was a child his mom had the deed rights to this mine, and as a result gave guardianship to the bank, so the bank raised him until he was 25, at which point he would gain access to his trust and gain all of his money and make him an exceptionally wealthy man instantly. I'm sure that the mining rights probably makes this sound familiar to you. Or do you not know that Elon Musk had mining rights?
I feel like I knew that, but I also tend to try to forget anything and everything to do with the man. So
fair enough. And so yeah, so the movie is sort of about various moments in his life. So there's an early moment in his life where he buys a newspaper, and the newspaper, he just kind of prints whatever he wants. He basically uses his money to control the media, and he says like, the world needs to be saved, and I'm the guy to do it. I'm the only one who can save the world. Wow, the more I say this aloud,
boy, does that sound familiar.
Man, the more I say this aloud, the more this sounds familiar. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna keep doing this, but it's creepy how similar this sounds. But he says, "I'm the only one who can save the world," and so he eventually starts to use. The guy's like, "Oh, why did you buy this newspaper?" And it's not for any ideological reason or any like. It's just for fun. He's like, "Oh, I bought it for fun because I could," and he starts to print stories about this this particular war, basically. And he starts propping up this war to benefit and profit from this war, and it's a point where he's like, yeah, I want the news to be running 24 hours a day, and the guy's like, and this movie came out like 1941, and the guy's like, oh, that's crazy, the 24 hours a day, that's insane, that would never happen, and at his point. The guy's like, you can't print that. That's not true. And he's like, the news is whatever I want it to be. It's whatever I say it is.
Oh boy, does that sound like the modern day?
Right. It's the movie ultimately makes the case. Like I truly believe that he believes he's a good guy and that he believes he's doing good things. But the movie, in my opinion anyway, and I'm sure again people in the comments are going to yell at me and tell me I misunderstood this movie, but in my opinion, the movie makes the case that he can never empathize with regular people. Like, it doesn't matter. Maybe he entered into buying the newspaper. Like, there's a point where he, like, and this is what's really funny to me, is there's a point where he's entering into politics. Like, he's running to become president. And it's discovered that he's cheating on his wife. And a reporter confronts him and threatens to expose him if he drops out of the race, and so he drops out of the race in shame, and then ends up leaving his wife anyway and marrying his mistress, whom he forces into an opera career that she doesn't want because he's just a monster, and the whole movie basically kind of ends up being this like origin story to how he's just this really awful guy who just uses his money and power to, like, at the end of the movie, I think towards the end of the movie, his like wife says how he just wants people, he doesn't really want to care about people or do good things, he just wants people to do what he tells them to. And the movie's just this really long story of how he's just this awful guy who like wants to control everybody, and it kind of, in my opinion, makes the case that he can never empathize with people. Like no matter how hard he tries, he might have entered into buying the newspaper for good reasons in his mind, but he can never relate to regular people because he got rich too early. And it was kind of
So,
scary.
so the real question is, when is the modern version of this movie going to come out, where it's perhaps another eccentric billionaire who's become very well known, who bought a perhaps a website that used to do tweets,
A media
um,
a media company. Yeah, right.
if you will, um, and who has this story very much makes me think of.
And like, yeah, maybe that's the argument for what makes this the greatest movie of all time. Is like it's still upsettingly relevant, and like it's for me, it's always hard to take an anti-billionaire movie seriously when it's coming from like it's written and directed by Orson Welles, and I don't I to be fair, wealth in the 1930s was different, so maybe he wasn't a millionaire at the time, but maybe he wasn't, maybe as an actor, writer, director, performer, he wasn't ultra wealthy, but like my understanding of that kind of like celebrity is that they're wealthy, right? So it's hard for me to take an anti what is in my opinion an anti-wealth movie seriously from a guy who's wealthy. But yeah, at the end of the movie, the reporter who's trying to figure out who Rosebud is never finds out who Rosebud is, and the only reason why you find out who Rosebud is the final shot of the movie is the sled. Like they're burning all of his crap, and the final shot is his sled from when he was a kid sitting on a fire burning, and you see the name Rosebud on it. And that's when you find out that Rosebud was the sled. But otherwise, there's no remote indication as to who Rosebud would be. So, like, yeah, I guess it would be a good twist if I didn't know. Because obviously, if not for that Family Guy bit, I wouldn't know that. But it's not a really well-established twist. Like, there's no hints to it, which, in my opinion, that's what makes a good twist. Is like, if you could spot it, that means that the groundwork is being laid for it. There's no real groundwork laid for this because they want you to think, obviously, Rosebud is a woman. Yeah, man, it's weird how. But yeah, so the ultimate question of like, is it the greatest movie of all time? Also Orson Welles is phenomenally charismatic. Like he's so good as Charles Foster Kane. Like he's phenomenal. The character is fascinating. As if you're like me and you really like really good character studies, it's really good. Is it the greatest movie of all time? What makes the greatest movie of all time, Jordan? That's my question.
I don't think that there can ever be one which is better than every other movie ever made ever. That's a pretty bold statement.
Right, there's so many movies that are really good, that are newer, that I'm like, I've said it at the time, of the movies today, there are movies that I think are better movies than that. Like, don't give me, like, the thing that I think maybe kind of bums me out a little bit is I kind of wish I'd hated it so I could come at it and be like, no, I don't like this movie, but like, no, man, I really like that movie. It's a really good movie. And if you like real good character studies, that's basically what it is. Like, it's hard for me. I'm gonna be like, yeah, man, if you like really good movies, it's totally worth watching. And it's one of those ones that it's in black and white, but it's still completely, it's not one of those like it's so old it's hard to watch. Like some movies hit that point where like they look really degraded. They're hard to watch because they're really, really old. This is not. This is really good. It's like, yeah, totally worth watching. Totally worth it. Is it the greatest? I don't know, but it definitely deserves to be on a list of one of the greatest movies of all time. Considering it's from 1941 and it is upsettingly relevant as we like have unpackaged today.
Yeah.
Upsettingly
Yeah.
unpackaged today.
Yeah. There's definitely comparisons that could be made, that's for
We
sure.
definitely noticed some of them unintentionally. Like it's funny, the first time I watched it, I really compared him to Donald Trump, but like, man, he really is Elon Musk, right down to those mining rights.
Yeah, not so familiar with that, but
And
you know,
he took over a newspaper, which is like, the 1930s equivalent to Twitter.
that I will compare. I will say I see the
Is
comparison.
that a millennial thing or Gen Z thing? Did I just
Or a
say
mod or if you will, if you're done. Are you done?
Well, I want to make one more Elon Musk joke, which is
Okay, because I was gonna use the perfect segue.
perfect. Okay, wait. My final Elon Musk joke is, and I keep meaning to make this into a TikTok. I'm probably still gonna do it after this, but Jordan, how long till Elon Musk names America, or what is Elon Musk gonna name America, Jordan? The United States of X America, the United X States.
No, he'll call it the Cyber Nation.
Oh yeah, okay, but no, but he names everything X though, Jordan. That's the
Oh, then it'll be America X.
America X. I was like the United X States of X America.
No. That's
Or is it?
he'll be like, no, we're gonna streamline it and make it more aerodynamic, and it'll be America X.
It'll just be. He'll just call it X, and we'll be like, which one, the website or the country?
Yes.
Yes, that's it. That's it. That's Citizen Kane. Good movie.
Well, the segue that I was going to use doesn't work as nice now, so we'll just say it. We're going to talk about Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times.
Oh,
See, what I was gonna do is when you were like, is that just a millennial thing or a Gen Z thing? I was gonna be like, well, Justin, it's really just a modern times thing.
I mean, you still could have made it work. You could have been like,
No, I couldn't. After you did the joke, it was gone.
it was gone. The moment was
The,
lost.
the moment was lost and the
Jordan.
pacing was gone.
Modern Times, Jordan. What did you think about your first Charlie Chaplin movie?
It made me laugh. It was funny. It's actually his last movie as the Tramp,
That is the
the little Tramp.
So okay, I feel like part of this is because there's gonna be a huge chunk of our audience who's like Charlie who, or like really. You're doing a Charlie you know what? That's probably I think that's the name of the YouTube video, Jordan, is really? You're doing a Charlie although this is technically our second Charlie. Anyway, really? You're doing a Charlie Chaplin movie?
I mean, I was told I had to do a Charlie Chaplin movie,
Yeah,
so yes.
Because Jordan.
Yes, I did a Charlie Chaplin movie.
Because now you're cultured. You've seen a Charlie Chaplin movie. You're cultured now. You can be like, I watched a really old movie. And it makes you sound smarter than you are. People take you more seriously as a movie lover when you're like, I watched a really old one.
You know what's funny is King Kong is older than this.
Really? What year did this come
King
out?
King Kong came out in 1933. This came out in 1936.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, this is his last yeah. So okay, so Charlie
It's
Chaplin.
It's a part talkie comedy film.
Yeah, okay. So I'll do the I guess I'll do the breakdown of Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, for those of you who don't know, is a silent era film star. His most iconic character, most people probably know by what he looks like, but maybe don't know the name, is the Tramp. He did several movies with the Tramp. Jordan, how would you describe what the Tramp looks like? I thought it'll be more fun if you describe what the Tramp looks like.
Bowler hat, pencil mustache, big like honking clown shoes, and a suit.
And he does this. I don't know what to call it other than the Tramp shuffle, where he does that
penguin walk.
Penguin walk. Is that how you would describe it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's how I would describe it. It's a penguin walk.
And yeah, his movies are just they're really funny. They're really funny and like if you like really good slapstick comedy.
Well, I was gonna say they're like Looney Tunes. If you like Looney Tunes, that's definitely what they're like.
For sure. I mean that's what I mean. These both come from a particular kind of theater. Almost, it's called vaudeville. It's vaudevillian, and this was like still when they were incorporating vaudevillian ideas and jokes into movies. Like, but the thing that makes these movies incredible. I mean, they were incredible at the time, but the thing that makes them incredible now is the thing that makes old movies incredible for me is he did a lot of that. Like he did it. Like.
Yeah, the different stunts and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'm not going to deprive you of saying the thing that you learned from this movie that blew your mind, because it blew my mind too.
Oh yeah. We'll get there. Quick breakdown.
What's the story? Because there's no plot in these movies.
Well, I was just gonna say what the quick breakdown of it was, which is He's working on an assembly line dealing with the progression of modern time,
Yeah.
and he has a breakdown, and then things go off the rails from there.
Yeah, he ends up meeting a girl who. I mean, these movies he always meets a love interest. I don't remember what the love interest is in this one.
He was a thief or something like that. She was living on the streets,
Yeah.
something like that. Anyway, but thing that I learned in this movie, which blew my mind, was I didn't realize, and again, someone in the audience is probably going to be like, "Oh, really? You're an idiot. You don't know anything. You're stupid."
I mean, they always do.
But I didn't realize escalators were that old. Moving
No,
stairs.
man, it blew my mind. Yeah, we taught Jake. I taught Jake that where he was like, "Really?" Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, escalators, 1930s." Would have figured it was. You would figure that was a 1980s thing.
Well, the first patent for moving stairs, I was reading because I got interested. I was reading about escalators and stuff like that, and the first patent, not the first built one, but the first patent for moving stairs or escalators was as far back as like 1890.
Really?
Something like that, yeah.
That I didn't know. That's fascinating.
That's the first patent,
That seems
not the first
so
actual,
good.
not the actual built one.
That's
But something to that like that effect anyway.
That's the scene where he's skating around on the roller skates, right?
Yeah, he's at the
That's also
the mall.
incredible because how old are roller skates? Now that I'm thinking about that, that also feels like a very 1980s thing.
Let's find out.
But he had to do that. Like, there's no faking that. He had to roll around on those skates, and man, there's some harrowing shots of like when he gets right up to the edge and he's about to fall off. You're like, whoa, man, he must have had to practice and practice. Also, I think no, that might be Gold Rush. But there's one of these, I always make reference to it. But there's one of his movies where like he jumped into like ankle deep water head first, and it just looked dangerous.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm inclined to make you guess how old they are.
1700s.
But okay, so the first reported use of a wheeled skate was on a London stage in 1743.
Wow, that was I just took a wild swing.
But the first patented roller skate was introduced in 1760 by Belgian inventor John Joseph Merlin.
Wow, I did not know they were that old. That's wild. Yeah,
Apparently they were hard to steer, and stopping was difficult due to the fact that they did not have any type of braking mechanism.
So that makes me wonder, if they were by the time anyway, it just makes me wonder if by the time this movie came out, if they were like children's toys at that point. Like at what point they became like a thing you bought kids.
In the 1840s, Meyerbeer's opera La Prophète featured a scene in which performers used roller skates to simulate ice skating on a frozen lake set on stage.
That's basically what.
That exposure had an impact on audiences and led to the rise of roller skating as a new and popular activity. So, 1840s is roughly when they started being used by normals.
Interesting. So by the time Charlie Chaplin was doing this, they're a pretty ubiquitous thing.
They're pretty well known thing.
That makes sense. But yeah, that movie's so good. It contains a lot of my favorite. For a guy who was so nervous about moving to talkies, also he has a really funny quote where he said that he felt that talkies would last at most 3 years. Boy, was he wrong.
Shows what he knows.
Shows what he knew. But that's just always, it just kind of goes to show how, like, I always say that old media will forever hate new media. It doesn't matter what the new media is. So yeah, Charlie Chaplin, he hated talkies because he was the old media, and old media was where the money and the power was. And then it took new media becoming old media for them to gain that respect, and it's just so funny to me. But yeah, for a guy who was so nervous about moving to talkies, all of his talkies are so good. Like all of my favorite bits in that movie are the ones where they clearly switch to the talkie camera, which is clearly a completely different camera.
Right.
Like, it's very funny. That movie is like interstitial scenes of what has clearly been shot on the silent era film camera, and then this stuff you can tell because you can see the cuts, which I think is funny.
But it was fun. It was definitely a fun pantomime kind of movie.
for sure. My favorite. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say it contains my favorite Charlie Chaplin bit, which is the nonsense song, which I'm gonna
I
actually
like the
put in
non.
a little
Yeah,
bit of the nonsense song here.
I like the nonsense song.
That was Yeah, it was funny, funny scene, very funny, and yeah, there's a couple of the bit where he gets trapped in the factory machine, like that's also just really good physical comedy. Just like yeah, there's a reason he's an icon of cinema. Not a great guy, not a great guy, but like an
I
absolute
mean,
like genius.
as good of a guy as anyone from his era was,
Yeah,
which is to
no.
say problematic.
He liked them young. And when I say he liked them young, Jordan, he liked them so young that even people in the 15s, 1920s were like too young. That really
Okay.
I don't want to say how young. I don't want to say the no, fucking
Um.
13, Jordan. He married a girl who was 13.
Ooh.
13, Jordan.
Oh.
Because we're gonna talk about underage relationships later. We might as well not beat around the bush. Yeah, I think it was 13. It was 13. I'm pretty sure. It was one of those things where he had to like travel to another country to make it technically legal. But it was like it was the thing. It was the kind of thing where I was like, yeah, they even in at the time contemporarily, even they were like too young, and it was like that's at the point in history where like they were slightly more okay with that. I'm not saying it was all right. I'm just saying that's what it was.
Anyways.
Anyway, so with that, I also watched the Charlie Chaplin movie. And while yours was the final one of the Tramp, and that was the one where he really experimented with talkies. It's not a full bore talkie, but it has talkie scenes. His only real complete talkie we talked about previously was The Dictator. This one was when he really started to experiment with sound. And so I like this one because he doesn't have any dialogue yet, but he uses sound effects. So this one really integrates.
Okay.
Like there's a funny scene where he accidentally swallows a whistle, and he's opening his mouth, he's trying to speak, but all that comes out is like a whistle. I think it was like a whistle or like a horn or something. Like it's a sound. So he's playing with sound. Like there's guys making like goofy cartoon noises. That's really funny. And yeah, it's basically the tramp wakes up, he's on a statue, he's a big old rascal, he gets chased out of town, and he winds up running into a blind woman who confuses him for a billionaire whom he runs into while he's trying to hang himself, and like to the point that like he has the noose around his neck, and he tries to like throw himself into the river. And there's a really like impressive stunt where like he goes to throw himself in the river, but it catches the tramp, and so it sends him and the tramp flying into like this like not ravine, but aqueduct, and this like aqueduct full of water. They go flying into it, and they're basically like floundering around in the water. And it's like, yeah, that's an impressive stunt because once again, you can't fake that. And apparently, it was like an unpleasant stunt to do. And it turns out that this guy who he runs into is actually a billionaire, and he convinces the tramp to go and like hang out with him and party with him. And they wind up at this guy's mansion, and the billionaire is like butler or whatever friggin' hates the tramp and keeps trying to like kick the tramp out, but the billionaire keeps inviting him back. And so they end up partying, and the billionaire wakes up the next day and is now sober and doesn't remember that the tramp saved his life the night before, and so kicks the tramp out. And the tramp wants to go out, and basically he has the love interest, and just like in your movie, he wants to help the love interest because that's what all these movies are about. And so this one is he wants to help the love interest get surgery to gain her sight. And there's a bunch of shenanigans of him getting other jobs that all play out. Okay, the number one thing about his movies, I love his movies when you watch them one. Like, you're like, I had a good time watching this movie because I only watched the one. But I watched that one and the one I'm talking about, like, back to back. Like, there was, like, one movie that separated them. And as I'm describing it, you've probably kind of picked up that all of his movies are exactly the same.
They sound very, 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 very similar.
Yeah, so he ends up basically rerunning into the billionaire guy who is now once again drunk and remembers that he loves the tramp, and the tramp ends up convincing him to help him give money to the blind girl who thinks that the tramp is the billionaire and doesn't actually know what he looks like, just knows what he sounds like. And he ends up getting this money to the blind girl. And I only recap this plot so I can give you the context to the ending, because the ending is really, really sweet. It ends with they get disconnected and separated, and she gets this surgery and can now see, and she's now way more confident and way more charismatic, and she's still selling flowers because she's a blind flower girl. That's her whole bit. And he's walking along, and he runs into her, and he's like, he's not sure if she can see him. And it's becoming clear as he's like looking at her that she can see him, and she's like, hello, and he starts to talk to her, and there's a really good moment of acting where you see she recognizes his voice, and she starts to recognize him, and then they get together and they go off, and it's all happily ever after. Oh yeah, by the way, this is City Lights. I didn't mention this. Sorry, this is City Lights. Jordan's was Modern Time. Mine is City Lights. And yeah, it's really sweet. It's a really cute ending. One of the funnier anecdotes about this movie, though, is that Charlie Chaplin went through like 3 or 4 different blind girls because he felt none of the blind girls could, quote, play a blind girl convincingly, which is just kind of 1930s, because like, just hire an actual blind person then. It kind of seems like you could probably have hired an actual blind person.
No, Justin, because then she'd walk into things on the set.
I mean, yeah, and then he would have to have a filthy blind person around. I assume there's like some sort of elitist reason. It's right, it's the 1930s. I'm assuming there's an elitist reason.
I mean, probably.
I'm not saying I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying it was the 1930s. They sucked.
I'm not condoning it. I'm just acknowledging it.
I'm just acknowledging it was a way that they felt, and that some people probably feel today. I'm not one of those people. I'm just saying. Also, my other and you kind of defended it off camera, and this is not me. This is not a complaint or a criticism. It's just a consequence of the fact that this is a silent era movie from the 1930s. I will say, when I did this the first time, after I did the second one, and I just was tired of Charlie Chaplin movies. I was never so excited than to have spoken dialogue in a movie, let me tell you. But
no doubt.
One of the things that drove me crazy was there's the occasional scene where they're having a back and forth dialogue, and there's no, like, everyone knows the how silent era movies work. The characters talk, and then there's a big long text box, and you read that. But sometimes there's scenes where, like, there's really long scenes of them having a conversation, but like there's no text boxes, and I can't tell if, like, am I meant to read their lips? But Jordan makes the point that maybe it's just doesn't matter what they're saying.
What they're saying isn't important. It's just important that you see that they're talking.
Yeah, exactly. You're meant to just, yeah. Like, that's not how movies work back then.
Basically, you can feel it, to have to cut in the what they were saying thing back in the day would have been expensive. Yeah, so in those scenes, what they're saying isn't important as long as you know that they're talking and you can fill in the blank yourself.
That's valid. That's very valid. It's a valid thing. Now, the question of, do these Charlie Chaplin movies, and also, to be fair, yeah, these are not back to back. Like I said, I think there's a couple of movies or at least 1 or 2 movies separating them, I believe. But Jordan, do you believe that these movies deserve to be on the list?
Think so.
They are. I mean, he is an icon of cinema. Like, it is indisputable to me that he influenced cinema. Still to this day, there's slapstick he does that people replicate. And we're gonna get to influential comedy later with one of yours, but I think he's an influential comedian without question.
Now, the counter question that I pose to you, because I don't deny, I agree that one of them should be on that list. But you yourself have said that a lot of his end up kind of just feeling the same. So do you really think there needed to be multiple Charlie Chaplins on that list?
Yes, certainly. I think these ones do. Now, I don't know about, although Gold Rush is like one of his first ones. I think that ends up being the oldest movie I've ever seen. I think that's 1915. I want to say it was Birth of a Nation until that one. I'm slowly gonna Google it, but I'm pretty sure that one's 1915. These two, yes, because yours because it was his first talkie, and it really it really elevates the format of that. And honestly, the only one that I would maybe say should be on this list more than maybe Gold Rush, is probably The Great Dictator. I would maybe kick off Gold Rush, and I would add The Great Dictator, because I think the Great Dictator is it's a much better movie than Gold. Don't get me wrong. This is not me talking about Gold Rush. 1925. So no. Birth of a Nation is still older. I think The Great Dictator is more interesting and more relevant, and I think if they were to maybe do a 20-year anniversary of this list, I would maybe put that on, and I would maybe replace Gold Rush. But I think these two, because of their space in the evolution of film from silent era movies to, I think that they're both they're the beginning and the middle, and I think that the list actually needs a different Charlie Chaplin to reflect the end of the silent era. Like, there are people who say that your movie is officially the end of the silent era. That's a question I would leave to the audience, because I cannot answer that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's
all right.
That's Charlie Chaplin. Yeah, really, we did Charlie Chaplin, and he is an icon of cinema. And yeah, if you like movies that are fun, and you can put down your phone for an hour and a half, then maybe that'll be the final thought we end this on. We're gonna disclaimer this stuff. We fully understand, man. It's hard to put down your phone. These are hard watches. Yeah. These are hard.
There
watches.
Were some of them. Some of them were hard.
These are hard watches for reasons that are on us and are bad. That we exist in a world where attention spans are so bad that yes, it was very difficult. Like, by an hour, these movies are about, I think mine's an hour 25. They're about an hour and a half, and in about an hour, I was kind of done. I was like, this could be over. This could be over now, and I'd be fine. I don't really need to see the rest of this.
Yeah, it wasn't the worst example of that. There's other movies that I watched which were more of that feeling, but yeah, this one was at least fun.
Jordan, here's the question before we move into the have scenes, because I'm just working this out in my brain as we're doing this. Should I upload Top 100 the movie to this channel for even just for watch time?
I mean, you could.
Do I still have the full version of that? I might have to download it off of YouTube. Anyway, Jordan, that's the end of Rapid Fire. This is gonna be a really long episode. Jordan, just so you understand, we were at 2:20 and we were just getting to have scenes. This is probably gonna end up being like a 3.5 hour episode. Oh, that's gonna be so much footage to come through.
We'll see, because it's some of these might go faster than others.
Raging Bull is bad. Spoiler alert. Sorry. What's your next one, Jordan?
Whoa, we're not there yet, Justin.
Yeah, you spoiled my joke. I spoiled your joke.
Calm yourself, sir.
What's your first half scene? What had
my
you seen?
My first half scene is The Sound of Music.
Oh man. Okay, Jordan. We have to tell the funny story about. So it's funny. I kind of, part of me kind of regrets. We'll have to contrive another reason to do. Maybe we'll come back to this because, one of us has to talk about The Godfather at some point. But, some of you might be aware. We already talked about Family Guy once, but the sound went really viral a few weeks ago when everyone thought TikTok was going to die. That I did not care for The Godfather.
Yeah.
And how it insists upon itself. Apparently, Seth MacFarlane revealed the origin of that line as being one of his film studies professors said that in a way to defend his opinion that The Sound of Music is a bad movie, he said that The Sound of Music insists upon itself, which again is a criticism that even in regards to The Godfather, I don't understand. Jordan, does it insist upon itself?
I don't know what that means.
I don't know
what does that
mean.
Like, what is that? What is it? I can't. I can't say yes or no to that because I don't know what they're trying to say.
I've seen multiple people attempt to explain it. One person was like, "Oh no, that's secretly brilliant because it means this," and I'm like, "Does it mean that?" It just sounds like a pretentious thing someone said to justify disliking a beloved movie because they knew it was an unpalatable opinion.
Like, okay, so we're gonna break this down.
That's what I would
So
say.
for those who don't know, the movie is an adaptation of the 1959 stage musical, which in and of itself, as I understand it, was also a book. It was based on a book.
Probably, yeah.
The stage musical was based on a book, which was the 1949 memoir, "The Story of the Trapp Family Singers."
Yes, because yeah, a lot of these movies that I think we're swinging into. We haven't hit any true stories yet. We have not. I think we're swinging into two true stories. Oh no, no. Charles Foster Kane wasn't a real person. Yeah, I think we're swinging into Real Person Town. Because yeah,
based on real people
based
throughout
on-
town.
well, no, this was a wait. Sorry, brain. It's not a music.
This was this
Von Trapp Family
movie.
Singers are real people. They're real people
Yes, right. But what I'm saying is that this movie is a film adaptation of a musical, which is a musical adaptation of a book.
of their
So,
biography, basically. Yeah.
right. But this is essentially an interpretation of an interpretation
It's not a biographical
of
film, but it's based on real
a
people.
real thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Von Trapps
exactly.
in this movie are not one-to-one adaptation. This is not a biopic, but
No.
there are events like they I don't think they necessarily. We'll get there, but it didn't necessarily happen in the way that it happened on film, but a version of it happened in real life. Is how it was.
Sure.
Like, did Maria grow up in a convent? I don't know, but I do know the bit at the end with the concert that is based on a real thing that happened.
So I want to start off by saying, I love this movie. Like I enjoy it quite a bit.
Are we about to receive a big old compliment sandwich?
Yes, we are.
Just a
I-
yummy compliment sandwich. Here it comes.
I remember watching this with my grandmother. And there's just I love the music, I love the songs. I found myself singing along to the songs. There's a lot to enjoy about this movie. But I think
Here comes the big old
personally,
butt.
I think it could have been a lot shorter if we cut out the tonally inconsistent Nazis trying to hunt them down part of it.
Last 30 minutes of the movie.
And I understand because it's based on the real people, you feel the need to include that aspect of it. But for me, in terms of it being a movie, it should have ended when Julie Andrews and the captain, when they fall in love and they're singing about falling in love and they go off and they get married. You could have just cut it there.
Now,
Like that could have been where it ends.
Remind me. I think you did mention this. This has an intermission, right?
Yeah,
Where's the intermission?
that I don't. I can't. I don't. Let's
Is it?
let's see if
Do you
there.
recall? Do you recall? Is it before or after they get married?
I believe it's basically like they get married and then the intermission happens.
Because to be entirely fair to this movie, I don't. Okay, number one, I don't disagree with you. It is entirely too long. But I think for me it was one of those movies where I would cut out like 5 minutes here or there that would inevitably shave it down by I think 30 to 40 minutes because I think it's 2 hour 40. I think it could be a tight 2 hours and it would be a much
It's just shy of 3 hours.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it much shorter because it's a musical.
Hold
You
on.
do need some time, but I do recall being hey, this could be shorter. I say that as a lover of that movie, but it could be shorter.
I mean, I just feel that the not even ignoring the time, it's 2 hours and 52 minutes.
Yeah, it's almost 3. It's not quite 3 hours.
It's just shy of 3.
Yeah, it could be shorter. It could be 40 minutes shorter.
But no, the reason why I say that the whole back end of it with the Nazis could be cut is not just because of the time, the time aspect.
It's also tonally inconsistent. I don't disagree with you.
It's tonally inconsistent with the rest of the movie.
I don't disagree with you. I will say, okay, to think about the time was what the reason why I asked is that that Nazi stuff is probably from the second act of the play, the second half of the play. Like I wouldn't surprise me if it. This is just a guess because I don't remember. But if the intermission is like right after they get married, then that tells me that them getting married probably ends the first half. Someone who's a Sound of Music fan, let me know in the comments. Because yeah, like I'm pretty that would, as a bifurcation, that would make sense. I do know that has a. Sorry, that was a wind to be defending. To be fair, it is a 1960s musical, and 1960s musicals just kind of like literally adapted the stage play. That's kind of and like in terms of its structure and its pacing, where it's like it doesn't cut much or change much, like, and that's why they're so long, because musicals, like stage musicals, are usually about 3 hours.
Right. Okay. So no, it's not when it's not when she falls in love with him. The intermission in The Sound of Music occurs after Act One, right after the villa party. When Maria leaves the Von Trapp family because she realizes that she's falling in love with the captain.
Right, because that's an all is lost moment. Yeah, you're right. That makes sense. So it's before. So I'm guessing Act One must open with them getting together then.
Act One would then
Act Two.
fall.
Act Two. I mean.
Act Two would then it would begin with her going back to the Von Trapps.
Yeah, then
and then them getting together.
Doesn't
so
he come after her,
you no, she comes back. She comes back to the party, or she comes not to the party. She comes back like I don't know. I don't remember how long after, but like the next day or a couple days or something. And
doesn't she like go back to the convent? See,
well, if you let me finish. She goes back to the convent and is talking to Mother Superior, and Mother Superior is all like, there's nothing wrong with the love between a man and a woman. That's okay too. And is in old timey time talk is essentially like, perhaps you should go back and try to explore these feelings instead of repressing them.
We don't like you. We want you to leave. Please don't come back.
More. You don't belong here. This isn't the place for you.
You're not really suited to be a nun.
And so then she goes back, and she says to the dad or whatever, she's like, "I'm only back until you find a new governess."
Right.
And then that's when the the Baroness is like, "I've seen the way you look at her. You don't love me, you love her."
Right. I remember she's pretty cool about the whole thing.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
And then that's when the dad goes to Julie Andrews and is like, yeah, she left. We called off the engagement because it's hard to marry someone when you're in love with someone else, and then that's when they end up singing the love song.
Also, yeah.
And so my point is that they sing the love song, and then like the next thing that we see, basically, from what I remember, is
them getting married, to my
the kids. Well, the kids are practicing on stage with the uncle guy, and the Julie Andrews and the dad are away on a honeymoon.
Yeah.
So it's like we could have just cut before that scene when they fell in love and got married.
Fair, as much as I don't.
And then they could have had The Sound of Music 2, which was all about them escaping from the Nazis, and have it be a completely different movie.
To be fair, they have an entire like after that where they had like a pretty, to my knowledge, they were like relatively famous in like the 70s and 80s, I think. Like they had a career after this. Like this movie makes it seem like it was a big, like them leaving or getting away was like this big dramatic thing. But to my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, but I think it was like not really that dramatic, not as dramatic as this movie makes it out to be anyway.
I mean, I could absolutely believe that.
But I also
that's my one big thing is I just, considering this, okay, and this is where I find movie ratings to be interesting, because for me, as soon as you put in all the Nazi stuff and them hiding behind the statue and guns and stuff like that, in modern times, this movie would be rated PG.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
but it's rated G.
Yeah, I know. When people rate old movies like that, because they only guarantee you the person who rated it probably only watched like the first like 20 minutes of it and saw that it was a bright, colorful, family-friendly movie.
Right, and so that's my point. That's kind of my point. Is this movie is Mary Poppins until the last 30 minutes when it becomes a completely different movie.
I don't disagree, but also I kind of like that because I'm like that is kind of how, and it's funny. It's funny that you're gonna laugh when we get to Cabaret. Spoiler alert, I'm gonna talk about Cabaret later. Because they're kind of similar in that I kind of not dig anything, you shouldn't dig anything Nazi related, but in terms of storytelling, I like how the Nazis
appreciate
as a storytelling device. I appreciate the Nazis' integration into the story as being subtle and sinister and like in the background, and they're trying to get him to be a Nazi and he refuses to. And like yeah, I like that the political stuff exists in the background and it's subtle. And I like as much as it is out of nowhere, Rolf being like really singing a concerning song about an underage relationship, all happily and cheerfully, and then coming back a brown coat is sort of kind of how propagandizing and brainwashing kind of like that works, and it is effective.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in terms of it being a good movie and an effective movie, like yeah, you're right, that is disarming, and I think that disarmament is what makes it an incredible movie.
So I don't on face value disagree with your statement, but and this is where perhaps my 2025 movies, like my sensibilities
you're like
are
the
coming.
Pacing is bad, and I would cut the ending to make this tighter in terms of its pacing.
But I was more just thinking that it's rated G.
You're trying to sell it to kids. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and it should. If you're trying to sell it to kids,
but my
like
argument,
that's where like, and this has always been my thing is, I think there's a difference between a kids movie and a family movie. If it's a family movie, it's PG. Because you're watching it with the parents and the children together as a family, which is why it's recommended that there be parental guidance, right?
I do.
Whereas a movie that's rated G, that is a movie that you should be able to sit your 5-year-old down in without having to worry about walking in and having to be like having them go like, "Mommy, what's a Nazi?"
Okay, I have two answers to that point. Number one. This movie, it has a rating of PG. Did you watch it on streaming?
Yes, I watched it on Disney Plus.
So it has a rating on PG of Disney Plus because the MPAA now exists. But like to be 1000% fair, that movie.
No, when I saw it, it said G.
Sorry, whatever. G. My point is that movie predates the MPAA, so it wouldn't have had a rating quite like that back in the day. In fact, that's probably pre-code, but maybe not. But either way, it predates the MPA, so it having a P or a G rating is purely a Disney Plus thing. But also, my argument to what your point, I understand what you're saying, but my modern sensibilities are like modern movies are too soft. It needs a little bit of drama like that, and also to that, we watched that movie when we were like 6 or 7. And we didn't know who the Nazis were or cared. We remember the fun stuff, the High in the Hill, the Little Goat Hill, Edelweiss, all the fun stuff. So like, the kids don't care. They remember the family friendly stuff.
Sure, but that to me just kind of proves that other stuff doesn't belong in this movie.
But also like that movie in terms of pacing, it's really well paced. Like it's in my opinion. It is almost 3 hours long, but for me, it didn't feel like 3 hours long. It moves at a clip. Like you're like 2 hours in, you're like, oh wow, this thing is almost over. Like there's an hour left. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's fairly well paced.
As
it's
far
just
as like 1960s musicals, there's worse ones. I watched one. It was Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor Dolittle was awful compared to this.
I just ultimately think that the last half an hour is tonal whiplash.
For sure. I think a lot of that has to do with it's a 1960s musical. They're like that. You're right. If this thing was made Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was getting a remake. If they remade this today, you're right. They'd probably cut out that last 30 minutes, and it would just end when they got married, and it'd be just focused on their relationship, and that's what it would be about.
Yeah, because to me,
or they would do a totally faithful 3-hour adaptation. Who's to say? But you're probably right.
to me, that other stuff is sequel material.
I mean, yeah, I mean, no one's ever done a movie on their later life, that's for sure. But Jordan, does it deserve to be on the list of greatest movies of all time?
Oh yeah, it definitely does. It's one of the best musicals that there
Okay,
is.
you watched Mary Poppins for the show, right? The original one.
Yes.
This or Mary Poppins?
Oh
For me, it's this, but that's because I grew up with this.
yeah, I like the music in this better. I like that one because it's shorter.
Fair. My thing with this is that's kind of incredible for me. It's like doing this show has really made me realize that when you're a kid, your sense of time is all out of whack. Because like this never, I don't remember this ever feeling like 3 hours. Like Chitty
No,
Chitty
well
Bang
that's
Bang is
why
a way shorter movie, and they always felt like they were the same length. Like
the
this,
the funny thing to me is that absolutely I remember this being shorter,
yeah.
and that's proof, and that makes me wonder. That makes me wonder because you were like, we don't remember the Nazi stuff. That makes me wonder if it got turned off before it got to that
Oh no, I
stuff.
remember the Nazi stuff because it's the boring part of the movie. It's where they stop singing. I remember it as a kid. I absolutely remember it as a kid.
I don't. I don't
But
remember watching
I do,
that.
yeah, I do remember this movie not feeling like it's, but like, yeah, as an adult, I
Um,
felt every near 3 hours of that movie. Like,
yeah, it was long. It was long, but fun. I like it. Although I will say, so two things, two final thoughts to wrap up the Sound of Music. Um, One, the I don't know how well you remember what the dad looks like in this, but every time I saw him, um, I thought of James McAvoy. Um, he
oh my
looks like
god,
James.
he totally looks like James McAvoy.
He,
Yeah,
he looks like he looks like James McAvoy to me. Um,
there's just certain movies where I'm like,
and
I can't believe they've never tried to remake this, and this is just one of them. Where I'm like, I can't believe no one's ever tried to remake this.
I guess because it's just that iconic that nobody wants to try.
Nobody wants to touch it. Yeah, I guess, yeah. And just I guess
Um,
'60s era style musicals just don't. They're not really. But
they're
the musical's
not
back.
really.
Like that. Yeah, no, I like the music in this one, but a lot of those movies, I'm like, yeah, the music just does nothing for me.
And then the other thing that I thought of as I was watching this movie is, yeah, so it takes place in what was it, 1939, not 1930 something? Hold on,
Something like that.
1938. And
Yeah, right. 1930s because it's pre World War II, Nazi Germany.
yeah,
Duh.
yeah, I knew it was 1930 something, but um, nothing. Which I will say, considering some of the movies I watched came out in the 30s,
Yeah.
and the fact that this took place in the time that those movies were made,
Well, that's
kind of
so. It's the point I meant to bring up during Charlie Chaplin, but I'll say it here. Watching movies from this era is kind of spooky because you're looking at ghosts.
right.
Like that was my thing with Charlie Chaplin was like I found watching people in the background and seeing what fashion looked like, how people walked, like that the Charlie Chaplin movies idea, how traffic worked, like where it's like cars are just kind of going wherever they want, and like there are just horses randomly walking in the street because they like infrastructure hasn't developed around cars yet. Like,
Right.
yeah, this movie's like that. Yeah, these movies are spooky because yeah, a lot of these people are dead. Like a lot of them are
Um,
dead.
but the one of the thoughts that I had as I was watching this movie is nothing tells me that it's supposed to take place in the 70s or in the more than the than the simple fact that my God, this man had 7 children and
Right.
still lived in a mansion.
Well, to be fair, I think he's a baron, so he's technically rich. But yeah, I know, I
No.
know. Still, and he's also technically in Austria, and but yeah, still, you're not wrong. Is that it?
Seven children.
Is that the
Seven
sound of?
children. My man got
Is
busy.
that okay, Jordan? You know what? This is probably also gonna depend. We're making so many YouTube videos today, Jordan. What do you think we should call this one?
Um, the Sound of Music was too long.
It was too long. Yeah, the entire. I like that. The Sound of Music was entirely too long.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. That's a good one.
I like that.
Is that The Sound of Music, Jordan?
That is The Sound of Music.
See, I liked it when we say the name of the title in the video. So then when I'm editing it later, I'm like, right, that's the name I thought of when I was doing. Because sometimes I think of the names while we're doing the show, and then I forget them, and then I'm like, what was the name I had? It was a good name. My first one. So my two half scenes. I'm just gonna begin it with this. They're modern movies. Modern movies. Both ironically start with a T. So my first one. It was from the new list. It's a new one. It's from the top one. It kicks something off, but it is Toy Story. We've talked about the newer Toy Story movies before, but we've never really talked about the original one and how just like utterly influential it was. I believed it kicked something off the list. I don't remember what, but just utterly influential for what it did for animation. Obviously, it's the first fully 3D animated movie. The vocal performances are great. A thing I noticed. Buzz Lightyear kind of looks like George Clooney. I don't know if that's intentional, but he really looks like George Clooney. Like a lot of his facial expressions are just George Clooney. Jordan, I'm not going to recap.
It probably was intentional because it wasn't originally supposed to be Tim Allen.
Oh, really? That I didn't know. Oh, interesting. Jordan,
Hold on.
I'm not going to recap the plot of Toy Story for people. You've all seen Toy Story. I'm not going to do it. Maybe I will a little bit. No, I'm not going to. But the performances are great. It's really funny because we always talk about how the movie, that universe, you never question the mechanics of that universe until Toy Story 4 when they introduced Forky and you literally saw Forky come to life. And I gotta tell you, Jordan, I always questioned the mechanics of this universe because the ones that like made me question it the most was like was Sid's toys. Like, how does Sid's toys work? Where is the brain? Where is the consciousness contained? Because how come Sid's toys can't talk? Like, why don't they talk?
Well, that's a good question. One could argue that it's because they're ripped apart. Hooker can't talk because she doesn't have a head. The duck, I guess, because ducks don't talk. Like, to be fair, not all of Andy's toys talk. The binocular can't talk.
Oh, that is true.
The race car can't talk.
Oh, that's a fair point. And then there's the ones who are up on the shelf. Yeah, that's a fair point. Not all of Andy's toys can talk. Yeah, that is a fair criticism. But
So it could be based on like what their toy level is. It could be based on, for all we know, it could be based on how much imagination the child has, whether or not, because like for example, when he plays with Buddy, Buzz, and Woody, he talks as them. So maybe the ones that he talks as are the ones that are able to talk.
And then there's just the question of okay. So like, oh my god, you know what? We're pulling apart the mechanics of Toy Story. I don't care because otherwise I'm not recapping the plot of Toy Story. We already said that. So Buzz when he comes to life thinks he's Buzz Lightyear. Like why? Because for example, Rex knows he not only knows that he's a toy T-Rex, but he specifically knows that he's made by Mattel and that he comes from a factory in Japan. Why does he have that ultra specific amount of information, but yet like Woody doesn't know that he's based on a television show? And the Toy Story, the sort of indicates that Buzz Lightyear is a superhero. Okay, so he's like you're a Buzz Lightyear. So like it kind of implies that Buzz Lightyear is a well-known IP. So like they know that Buzz Lightyear is a well-known IP, but Woody is, and I know obviously they hadn't thought of that before the second movie, but I'm saying like in universe, why do some of these characters seem to be acutely aware of like what they are and then others aren't? Like even within the context of this movie, it doesn't make sense.
Because shut up. That's why.
You're not supposed to think about it. Shut up.
You're not supposed to think about it. There were a lot of actors that were considered to be Buzz. A lot.
Don't tell me all of them. Was George Clooney one of them?
No.
No? Oh, interesting. Because there's a couple times where I'm like, he really looks like George Clooney. But yeah,
There's a lot.
and then,
I'm gonna show you this after because you'll be like, really?
and then there's just like the wait. So if Buzz doesn't realize he's a toy, why does he freeze when Andy's around? Like, all
Well, I
that
mean,
stuff.
that's he's on an alien planet. He sees the natives doing it, and so he does it
It's just
too.
blending.
That you can explain away.
Yeah. Also, like nobody ever talks about Sid's really upsetting living situation where his the climax of this movie is he obviously gets the rocket, and it wasn't until like this watch through that I went, how did he buy this rocket? Did his mom give him money? Did his mom, like, his dad's day drinking, passed out in the middle of the day. Like, you see empty beer cans. He's day drink, full blown day drinking. Like,
Bold of you to assume that he asked. Bold of you to assume that Sid didn't just steal his drunken dad's day drinking dad's credit card.
I mean, that's true.
Go and buy it himself.
That is true. He could have stolen the, because yeah, Jordan. To be clear, Sid's dad has passed out watching drinking beer in the middle of the day, watching a bowling tournament. Which, like, I don't blame him.
Well, you know what?
I don't blame
At
him.
least, unlike Andy, at least his didn't go out for milk and never come back.
Well, there's a theory that one of the theories is that Andy's mom is divorced, recently divorced, and that's why they're moving.
Yeah, I think I've read.
And I'm like, that makes total sense.
I think I've heard that one before.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where they probably like confirmed it in a random interview somewhere where they're like, yeah, that's probably true.
That feels like a good story. Let's go with that. We definitely thought of that.
Definitely thought of that. It's just kind of starting to look dated. The thing about those early Pixar movies is like they really nail plastic. Like Buzz convincingly looks plastic, but like humans look horrifying. They really nailed humans. And Scud moves like he's stiff as hell. He just does not look good.
It was the first of its kind. Okay, you have to be kind.
You gotta break a few eggs. The music is genuinely really good. My favorite moment in that movie is honestly, "I Will Go Sailing No More."
That's your favorite song?
That's my favorite.
Not You Got a Friend in Me.
I love You've Got a Friend in Me, but just in terms of character moments and character growth and a solid character arc, that scene. And like just the total disillusionment of his ego. That scene is just genuinely really good, and there's a lot of really fun edits.
So I don't disagree with your assessment, but devil's advocate, counter throwing another one in here. I think Strange
that song's also good. That montage is also really good.
Because it really puts Woody's perspective in perspective.
Right? Like, yeah, that song's also really good. Yeah, that's just a great soundtrack. That movie's just really good movie. It's a classic for a reason. Yeah, Toy Story, super good.
It's good.
It's one of those movies I can pretty much like quote word for word. I was like, give me that.
Give me that.
You are a sad, strange little man. You have my pity.
You are a toy.
I mean, also,
you're not the real Buzz Lightyear. You're just an action figure.
I know everyone keeps.
You are a child's plaything.
I know that they kind of brought him back in Toy Story 3, but like I've always kind of wanted them to like go back to Sid as like an adult or a teenager and be like he got messed up, like just because he's like. He now he thinks toys are alive. Now he knows that toys are alive, and yeah, like that in that movie they mention rules and breaking rules, and then they never really address what those rules are and why. Yeah, that movie really does kind of point out the universe, and where you're like, wait, I have questions.
No. Don't think of the questions. Don't ask the questions. Don't acknowledge the questions.
What's your second half scene, Jordan?
My second half scene is a boxing movie. I watched 2 movies that had boxing in them this week. And one this one is much lower than the other one on the list, and I think they should be swapped.
Hey, look, man, I don't disagree.
This is Rocky. I watched Rocky. It's at like number 78 or something like that on the list. And the next one that I'm going to be talking about, which is also boxing, is at like 25.
Which is also
And I'm just like, that's insane. But Rocky is really good.
Rocky's really good.
And I'll be referencing back to it when I'm talking about the next one. But Rocky is just a really solid character piece of we're following this. I mean, you've all seen Rocky. I don't need to do the plot details, but
He's a low class thug enforcer.
low cast thug enforcer boxer, who has
he's
never
bad.
really
He's bad.
who's
He's,
never
smoking a cigarette.
who's never really gotten the chance to go big.
No, and everyone's a dick to him.
And he's an idiot.
And he's simple, Jordan. He's a simple fellow. He's not a bright guy because he took a lot of blows to the head.
That's what I said. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
There's things in this movie where it's like that's problematic by today's standard.
Oh man, yeah. His first date with Adrian is so problematic. Her consent is dubious at best and makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, where it's like she doesn't want to go into his apartment and he pressures her.
He pressures her. Then he physically intimidates her.
And then he's like, come sit down, and she doesn't want to. She's like, I'm gonna go, and he's like, no, you can't leave. And like he gets up and like pins her against the wall as he shuts the door and locks it so she can't leave. And then pressures her into kissing him.
Right, and then
and
the next scene, she's like an entirely different character. It's like the one criticism I have about this movie.
Kind of, but not really. She's not really truly a different character until she finally stands up to her brother.
He was a piece of shit.
That's when she like really switches and is then like confident and believing in herself. But like until she does, she's still like a little bit withdrawn, but not around Rocky. It's like Rocky is able to get the real her. Fair. And then the rest of the time, she still is like down on herself. And then her brother, who is a piece of shit.
He's just a piece of shit.
Yeah, like goes off the rails and has like a breakdown, and that's where she stands up to him. And then after that, she's like confident.
He's a piece of shit that Rocky need to beat the crap out of. To teach him he needed to be taught a lesson. He's got too much hubris for a guy who's a piece of shit. He's got too much ego, undeserved ego, and the movie never punishes him for it. It's really frustrating. Like it teaches it. The movie treats it as though he's being wronged when he's not. Like Rocky owes him nothing.
Now that being said, the fight scenes in this one are good. They're fun. Yeah, although I found as I was watching it, I was just like, man, Rocky, come on! I don't box, and even I know hold your arms in front of your face.
Gotta block those shots.
Like
Rocky.
You got it. You gotta put your hands in front of your face.
You can't specifically let them hit you in the face. That's the whole point of this.
And so like yeah,
but that's kind of the bit though. Point. He's supposed to be. That's why Mickey hates him. Is because he's a shitty boxer. That's kind of the whole bit. He's not supposed to be an exceptionally good boxer. That's kind of the whole. That's the kind of the whole gag. That's why Apollo chooses him.
I mean, no, Apollo chooses him because of his name, the Italian Stallion, and he knows that it has marketability.
Yeah,
that's why he chooses him. It has nothing to do with the fighting.
Well, it's also he's supposed
which is also why when Apollo Creed goes into the fight, he doesn't take him remotely seriously, and Rocky like knocks him to the ground.
Because the idea is that Apollo is like a paper champion, and like he's basically Rocky is just there to lose. He's like. He not even necessarily maybe a glass champion, but yeah, he's just there to lose and make Apollo look good. Like that's what he's there to do. He's not supposed to win. He's not supposed to give Apollo a fight. And like
that's why I said he's there for marketability. Yeah. That's it.
Well, he was selected for marketability. He's just there to be a body. Like is what I would say. Like he specifically was selected for marketability, but the concept of the fight is just to make Apollo look good. Like he could be anybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, because Apollo did want to have a good proper fight with a high person who is like up on the list, but none of them could do it in the short turnaround that was needed, and so
Right.
that's why he then was like, well, okay, then at that point we'll make it a stunt.
And Carl Weathers, man, Carl Weathers is so good in this movie. I love the fact that the main boxer is a person of color, is a black guy. And like, spoiler alert, big old spoiler alert for a decades old movie. I love the fact that Rocky loses. I said it
Yeah.
earlier, but it makes it all the more satisfying when he finally wins in the next one. Like, it makes it makes it all the more like rewarding when he finally does win, and it's just a really good fight. And yeah, like you said, it's well shot. All the performances are good. I love Mickey's a dick. Rocky's indignation is totally warranted, where he's like, "You didn't want me. The only reason why you want me now is because I've got this shot. Like, this is completely disingenuous. You don't want to protect me from anything. Like, I'd be like, fuck
Yeah,
shove it
you
up
don't
your
give a shit.
Right, you don't care. Like, you only care because of the attention I can bring to your gym by you being my trainer. It's the only reason why you want to be my trainer. It's not for any like altruistic or value. You don't value me as a person. Like, we were like, he's an asshole to him the whole movie. He's never nice to him once until he can use him.
And then my favorite part is, or one of my favorite parts, is when he's with the news person. I was making fun of this as I was watching it. He's with the news lady or whatever in the meat locker, like doing
This is really
the
unsanitary.
I'm just like, and news is now recording how this unsanitary practice is happening. This place will immediately, of course, be shut down after this.
You know, it's funny.
They are serving this to the public.
To be fair, that might predate food safety laws.
That's a good point, actually. I hadn't thought of that.
But yeah, no, yeah. No, oh, the other thing we have to mention, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is iconic. It's just
Da
peak
da da
1970s. Yeah, Come Fly With Me Now is one of the most
da da
iconic
da
pieces of orchestral music
da
ever.
da 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 da.
The extended version where you got the guitar solo is just so fucking good. It's just such a good movie. Yeah, man. Written by Sylvester Stallone. He had an absolute. I think he like mortgaged. He was like broke when he made it. He like had to mortgage something or sell something. Like, just utterly incredible. One of my all-time favorite movies. Maybe my favorite boxing movie. Probably my favorite boxing movie. I don't know, because I really like Rocky 3 and 4. Those are my favorite. I think those are my favorite Rocky movies. But just really good. Jordan, what else do you have to say about Rocky?
It had a budget of 1,100,000, and it had a box office of 225 million.
Big hit?
And it absolutely deserves to be on the list. Apparently, it was. I was reading something about in 2006, Library of Congress selected Rocky for preservation in the United States National Film Registry
Yep.
as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
It's usually how these things wind up on this list. Is yeah, they get added to the Library of Congress like that. Jordan, is that
Also, the sequel came out in 1979.
all right? All right. The sequel is also
That's
very good.
That's Rocky.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find a reason to watch Rocky 2 for this show, because I love Rocky 2. Rocky 2, also a phenomenal movie, just so gosh darn good. My second half had seen Jordan, was another one that was added to this list for the 10th anniversary, and it also starts with the letter T. It is a movie called Titanic, Jimmy Cameron's own Titanic, which I said the last time I watched it, and I still agree this time, is a movie for everyone. That movie has literally something for everyone. If you're a woman, it has a romantic tension between Jack and Rose, and it's a really romance. It's a tragic romance. You can get invested in these characters. And for the guys, it's an action movie where Jack and Rose have to somehow seemingly escape a sinking boat. And for disaster movie fans, it's a movie where a lot of people die brutally.
Yeah, I remember always just putting the second tape in and having a great time.
It's what's known as a 4-quadrant movie. It hits all the quadrants. It hits every core audience member you could possibly want, which is probably why it's one of the most successful movies of all time. Like several $billion at this point. And look, it's a pretty darn good movie. I really liked it. It's entirely too long. I'm surprised we by how little we've said that this week. I think we've only kind of said it once, but it's entirely too long. It's a pretty good, in my opinion, a pretty good movie. That would be a much better movie if you shaved off like half an hour. And you easily could. There's so many, in my opinion, extraneous scenes. I would like completely cut out the framing device, which is like an additional 27 minutes of this movie. There's like scenes with Jack and Rose I would straight up cut out. Like there's so much of this movie that I would slice and dice down to like a 2-hour runtime. At best 2:15. Like I would cut down almost an hour of this. But like it's kind of incredible because you know it's gonna happen. Like it straight up tells you what's going to happen. It shows you what's going to happen in like the coldest, clinical, most scientific way possible. And when you get to the end and you see it in this like emotional, horrific way, you understand it. You don't need it you don't need it explained to you. You understand why these things are happening because they told you. And it's really kind of neat. And yeah, the performances are good and it's proper sad and the soundtrack is really good. It's technically impressive. The level of detail that James Cameron got on the story of the Titanic is incredible.
Would you say that your heart will go on?
My heart will indeed. My heart goes out to you.
And you, and you, and you.
And you, and you, and you. No, it's really good. Yeah, when we were kids, we owned this on VHS, and we used to watch the second tape because that's the best part of this movie. The romance is boring and sucks and is awful. But like, just as you're starting to get bored, you're like, oh my god, the boat's about to sink and this movie's about to get fun, and then it does. And then there's the memes, Jordan. There's the memes. I put the jacket on the girl. I put the diamond in the jacket, and then I put the jacket on her.
Plus. As a young man, there was really only one part of the romance section of the tape that I enjoyed. And there's no way to say this that doesn't make me sound terrible. So Kate Winslet's tits.
Yeah, the naked drawing. The naked drawing. I mean, the naked. It was the naked drawing. That's the only part of the love section that was interesting. It was the naked drawing.
Tits.
It was the naked drawing. That was it. But yeah, I like it. Like I say, the back half of it is really well done. I mean, I won't. You could
draw me like one of your French girls, Jack.
Draw me. Yeah, people still say that. I have a funny anecdote about that to tell you later. It is not an appropriate stream story, but I have to tell you something funny later that'll make you laugh. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, no, Titanic is really good. Like, yeah, I can go into the absolute nightmare, like how everyone, like, because they were filming in like freezing water, like they all got sick. Apparently, someone like spiked the clam chowder with like some sort of drug, so everyone got like unbelievably sick. People nearly drowned. Like, it was just apparently a nightmare of a movie to make. Like, it was supremely over budget. They thought it was going to absolutely just fail and, like, tank at the box office. And it was, like, the movie that nobody thought would succeed. And it just absolutely did. And, like, I saw someone say that it might be James Cameron's best movie. I don't know. I don't know if I can agree with that.
Is Magnum Opus?
Magnum opus. I mean, in a filmography that has Terminator 2 and Avatar.
I mean, this is better than Avatar.
It's better than Avatar. It's definitely better than Avatar. That's it. That's Titanic. Really good movie. Really, really good movie. Really like Titanic.
Okay. So now we're moving on to the have-not scenes.
Time for some have-not scenes.
I was gonna do The Godfather, but once I picked Rocky, I was like, well, there's another very famous boxing-esque movie.
Boxing-esque. That's what I would say. Okay, I would definitely say that Rocky is a sports movie. I don't know that I would say that Raging Bull is. I don't think that's a sports movie.
I wouldn't either.
That's a character study on a bad person.
Neither would Wikipedia. Wikipedia describes it as a 1980 American biographical sports drama film.
Yeah, biopic, because it is technically once again about a real guy who like.
It's it's a bio. It's based off his book.
Okay, I mean, just to again, well, you say what you say your bit, and I will say what I find perplexing about this movie.
Okay, so first off, you remember how you said that we haven't said that the movies were too long very much today? This movie was too long.
Fair.
Way too long. Entirely too long. So much too long. Um and I understand that this is the point, but when I'm just going to refer to actors.
Yeah.
When Robert De Niro is supposed to be our quote unquote hero,
But certainly the
main
protagonist.
main character, protagonist, I don't know how you want to refer to him.
I would go
But
protagonist, not the good
but
guy. That's
but when he's such a piece of shit
God, he's just such a
and
piece
he's
of
so
shit.
unlikable,
He's
it
just...
makes it hard to want to finish the movie.
And my thing is like he's such a piece of shit, but the movie never like makes that's not the point. That's not the point that he's a bad person, but he's an exceptionally bad person that the movie wants you to sympathize with. Like
He's unapologetically bad.
right.
Is how I would word
he
it.
doesn't ever see, at least in my opinion. Maybe this again. Someone's gonna yell at us for misunderstanding this, but someone's gonna yell at us for misunderstanding this movie. But like, yeah, it never seems to like punish him for being awful. Like he never seems that never seems to be why he does it. I mean, I guess it does because of he gets arrested, but
it does. But you could make the argument that he's not. I don't know how to word this.
He doesn't learn from being a bad person, I guess. Maybe
he's not. He's unapologetic.
Yeah, he doesn't grow from it.
And this is where it's like, I end up comparing this movie to Rocky because they both have boxing in them, but Rocky, yeah, he's a bad guy. He works as a mob enforcer. He's not great, but like. He's at least, you feel like he's trying to be better.
My thing with Rocky, I think what I said about this was like, Rocky at his core is a guy who, yeah, does he make some bad choices? Is he the greatest person on the planet? Like, no. But fundamentally, in his heart, he's like a good, decent guy who just made bad choices. Jake LaMotta, I think is what his name is just a bad guy. He's just a bad person.
Jake LaMotta.
Yeah, he's a bad person who does bad things to bad people unapologetically. Like including his wife.
He beats not just like he beats it. Okay, so he cheats on his wife with an underage 15-year-old girl, and then ends up marrying her and beats her, and then also accuses his brother of sleeping with his wife. And dozens of other guys, and then after his and then he wins the belt, which in any other movie you'd be like, oh, okay, cool, our struggling guy who's trying to become the champion became a champion. That's awesome, and you'd feel happy about it. But I feel like he doesn't deserve it because he's a shit person. And then later on in the movie, and this was the part where and this is maybe going to sound funny, this is the part where I started to enjoy it because it felt like he was getting what was coming to him.
Oh, where his life started to fall apart?
Where it's it's after he's won the belt, and he's now trying to do stand-up comedy in these clubs and stuff. And I think it's his club.
Yeah, it's his
I think
club,
he's doing, so it's not even like he's doing stand-up in someone else's club and he's earned the right to do it. No, he's allowing himself to be on stage where people have to listen to him.
And isn't it not even really stand-up? It's just him standing. Well, I mean, comedians nowadays would say this is technical. But isn't it him just standing on stage airing his grievances?
Basically, airing his grievances and making jokes about them.
Not good jokes?
I mean, very clearly not good jokes, considering at a certain point in the movie, there's someone on the stage who drunkenly was like, go away,
The the, the,
basically.
the thing that got
And so then at a certain point in the movie, these two detectives or police or FBI, I don't remember what they were, basically come to him and are like, yeah, so we know that you've been introducing these young girl like this, and I think it's a picture of one young girl, one where she looks like she does normally, and the other where she has the makeup on. I couldn't tell if that was the point, but I think that's what the point was supposed to be.
like she's
Um,
undercover. I think like she's an undercover cop or whatever.
no, more just like when she's at the club, that's what she looks like in the one picture.
Oh, gotcha,
Like when she's at his club with all her makeup on and stuff, and then the other picture was her like regularly,
gotcha.
where she very definitely looks 14. Um, but I couldn't tell if that was the point or if it was supposed to be two different underage girls that he has separately on separate occasions introduced to these men.
I mean,
Like I
I
couldn't,
could believe either.
I could believe either. But um, it's I okay, and so this is where my opinions differ very much largely from critical praise and all that, because uh, it has garnered high critical praise and is now considered one of the greatest films ever made, which I don't think it is.
I didn't think it was very good.
In 1990, it became the first film to be selected in its first year of eligibility for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
My thing
And
is,
the American Film Institute ranked it as the fourth greatest American movie of all time.
they're wrong. My thing was, the thing that I found the most perplexing about this movie was that the real guy consulted on this movie that makes him look awful. Like, this movie doesn't make you look good. Why would you not like age up the girl? Like, are you not ashamed of that? Do you own that? Like, it's just like, this movie doesn't make you look good. It makes you look like one of the worst people to have ever lived. Did you not want this to be flattering to you? Are you okay with it making you look like an absolute monster? Like, that was the part that made me go, really? Why? This movie makes you look awful.
All right. Sorry, I'm just trying to. I'm refreshing myself on the ending of it. Um, Hello.
Yeah, is that it? Is that the end?
Just like I said, I'm rereading. Um, yeah. So not only was he going to be going to jail, but then he unsuccessfully attempts to bribe his way out of his criminal case using the jewels from his championship belt.
All
Then
right.
in 1957, he goes to jail, sorrowfully questioning his misfortune and crying in despair, like you're a shitty ass person, and yeah, and then yeah, he re-encounters in 1958. He re-encounters Joey, who reluctantly accept his embrace,
Oh yeah, right. It ends with him reconciling with the brother.
which wow. Yeah, no, so to answer the question of do I think this one
Kicking
deserves to
it,
be on the top 100? No,
kicking it off the list.
I would kick this off the list. In fact, I would say like this is like I said, this was like up at 25, and Rocky was down at 79. I think Rocky deserves to be way higher than this.
I mean, I don't disagree. If you fair, I love Rocky. It's hard not to disagree with that. With that.
But
Um,
that's all that I have to say about Raging Bull.
okay, so my two have scenes are movies that were added once again. I guess all my have not have scenes were movies that were added to the list. So these are ones I had not seen because my big thing was, like I said, I kind of gave up, and I was kind of disappointed because there were some of these movies that I was kind of interested in, and the first one that I was kind of interested in was a movie called Cabaret, and like I saw the poster for this, and I read what it was about, and I was like, maybe I'll swap this out for who's raising Virginia Woolf, but then that also sounded boring. So I went back to Cabaret. And so Cabaret is about a gentleman who's a scholar. He's in Germany pre World War II at the rise of the start of the rise of the Nazi Party. He is there as an academic to do his dissertation on something, and it's the guy who plays, you know, what Austin Powers.
Yes. What about it?
You know the actor who plays Basil Exposition with British intelligence.
Yes.
It's him.
Yes.
He's in this.
Okay.
He's the
Got
main lead guy, and it's him and it's Liza Minnelli. And yeah, he's traveled to Germany, and he meets a young promiscuous woman played by Liza Minnelli, who is, I would describe as a like proto manic pixie dream girl kind of character, who is like whimsical and like kind of like flight of fancy and like bangs a bunch of dudes. And he moves into like her hostel, and initially like they're not, and at night she works at a cabaret. Do you know what a cabaret is, or do I have to explain to you what a cabaret is?
Cabaret is like a dance, like a person is on stage, like Jessica Rabbit's Ink and Block Club.
Close enough. Yes, that's pretty much what it is. This is a bit more risque, but yes, more or less, yes. And she works at that at night, and the movie is about their relationship. All set to, like I said, the background of the rise of the Nazi Party. And so it sort of goes through, they initially, they're not really into each other, and then they hook up, and they wind up she winds up becoming friends with this like billionaire, and like they wind up in this like, they're gonna travel together and hang out, and out of nowhere, this billionaire and the guy are hanging out, and then the billionaire just kind of takes off, and they're like, what happened? And it's revealed that she's like, oh, I slept with him. And yeah, he's like, yeah, well, so did I. Which I was like, huh, that's really interesting, because throughout this movie, there's a lot of like gay kind of sort of drag characters in the back. There's a lot of like LGBTQ kind of stuff happening. And all while this sort of character drama between... This movie's a musical. It's a very famous musical. So there are musical numbers. But the musical numbers are all, I always fuck this up, diegetic musical numbers at the club. So they're all just performances at the club. And the music in this movie didn't do anything for me. It wasn't, there's like one song that I kind of like the choreography, but it's otherwise just not my kind of musical. The music wasn't really doing anything for me. It didn't really move the narrative. It wasn't really... Yeah, it wasn't doing anything for me. And so yeah, so they wind up in a coupling, and she finds out that she's pregnant, and she's unsure of who it is, him or the billionaire, and they theoretically are about to get together, but she like last minute sabotages the relationship and chooses not to go back with him back to Cambridge, because she's concerned about becoming like bored in their relationship, and they wind up not getting together, which I appreciate it, because I'm like, that's just how real life works. And this is all set to the back, again, like I said, to the backdrop of Nazi Germany. So initially, like the Nazis kind of start to show up, and the club owner like tosses the Nazis out, which gets the club owner beat up, and like progressively as the movie goes on, the cabaret performances become more and more pro-Nazi, like slowly. So it starts off like it looks like they're doing kind of apolitical numbers, and then it gets to a point where now they're doing this number where it's about this guy who's in love with like a gorilla, and it all ends on a really anti-Semitic joke. And then it's just, you slowly see all of the support for the Nazis kind of bleed in to the point that like at the end you see in the front row is now all Nazis. And it really kind of reminded me of like there's a scene where like he's the main guy's like walking down the street, and the Nazis are on the street corner like trying to get people to join, and he starts yelling at them, and they beat him up. And then there's a scene later on where you kind of see like the insidiousness of this ideology, where like he's talking to like his landlord, and just like today, where like this guy just like comfortably says this like horrible conspiracies that just are clearly probably not true, like the classic ones of like the world is ruled by a blah blah, the real classic ones. Um, and yeah, and it just kind of demonstrates how like easily this stuff can like infiltrate, because the movie doesn't start off that way, it ends that way, but it doesn't start off that way. And I just thought, like, again, oddly relevant to how it's kind of today is, where it's like, yeah, it's so real. And how like people have said that like before the Nazis came in, that Germany was really pro LGBTQ back in like 30s, 20s, and 30s, and this movie kind of hints at that as well. And this is a movie from the 1970s, so like culturally speaking, World War II and not are still kind of fresh in people's mind. You know what I mean? And yeah, that just to see, yeah, it reminded me of The Sound of Music, where like that slow like infiltration, you kind of see that. I just thought that they were kind of interesting parallels to each other, and like also, it made that scene. And remember how I said that in Sex and the City 2, she shows up and sings a song badly. Yeah, that makes me hate that scene more, because she's really charismatic in a way that it's one of those performances that, in my opinion, is ahead of its time, and that it feels like a performance from today in the 1970s.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised by how much I liked it. It was quite good. I enjoyed it. That was Cabaret. I didn't think I thought the musical portions of it were the least interesting bits.
And should it have been on the list?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, because it definitely was an interesting take on. I wish I knew what it kicked off, or if it kicked off anything, or the numbering. But yeah, it definitely deserved to be added on there. I think it was definitely interesting. It's an important part of history, I think. It's funny I said that.
Okay.
You don't get why that's funny yet.
So my last half scene is a.
You mean have not seen?
That's what I said. Is a movie called Duck Soup.
Another one I liked.
Which, and I don't know if this means anything to you, is a 1933 American pre-code musical black comedy film.
Yep, yeah, pre censorship code. Yeah, that does kind of. I looked up what that meant specifically. I don't remember offhand what it means, but yeah, I do know what that means.
I mean, that's fair. It's a Marx Brothers movie, which, as an aside, when you first said it was a Marx Brothers, I thought there was only two Marx Brothers.
Oh yeah, I can see why you would say that. I mean, yeah, there's the Groucho Marx and then there's Harpo Marx, but yeah, there's a third one whose name is completely escaping me.
There's four.
There's technically four, yeah, but the main three were the ones that most people know.
There's Groucho, Harpo, Chico, and Zeppo.
Yep. I don't know if like they're all in. I can't. There's one of them that has like all of them, and I don't think it's Duck Soup. I think it's the other one.
This one has all of them.
Oh, is this one? Okay, never mind then. I'm wrong. Yeah, they're all very funny. Harpo is the Harpo's the silent one. He's very funny.
He was funny. Every time he would walk by something and cut, like he pulls the guy's pockets out and cuts it, or cuts the bottom of stuff. It was a running gag, which made me laugh every time I saw it. Right. He was probably one of my favorite parts of this movie. This was a real short one, and after watching Raging Bull,
I told you
this was nice.
You're like, what do I do? What do I do first? I'm like, you should do Duck Soup first. Just take a little bit of Duck Soup. It'll be nice. It'll be all nice.
I'm still unsure as to why it's called Duck Soup, but
probably just because it's a funny name.
The one scene. So there was the one scene where it got to it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I recognize this!"
So Jordan, and it's kind of. I was gonna say, for the benefit of the audience, perhaps you should tell the people what Duck Soup is about before we get into specifics.
I mean, okay. There's a. I'm going to do a bad job at this. There's an ambassador, and he wants these guys to spy on this other guy. And then there's a war with a country which is Fredonia. It wasn't really important. The plot wasn't really important. is what I'll say. So I didn't really. I was more focused on the gags
I mean, that's fair.
and and the jokes than I was on the plot. Um, and so that brings me to there's a joke in this which I mean
Is it?
everyone a lot of people have seen.
I believe you're referring to
It's
the mirror
hold
gag,
on
right?
hold on. I want to read a list of examples of other things that it's been in, and then we will say what it is.
All right.
Um, so this scene has been imitated in such things as Bugs Bunny,
Mm,
Mickey Mouse. I'm
yep.
not going to say the actual cartoon or the actual things that it was in.
Yep.
Um, the Pink Panther, Tom and Jerry, Big Business, X Files, Garfield, Family Guy is probably the one that most people, and then uh, um, Harpo himself did a reprise of this scene in his usual costume with Lucille Ball also donning the fright wig and trench coat in I Love Lucy.
You're talking about the mirror bit, right?
I am talking about the mirror bit.
Yeah. Explain it.
Um,
Explain the mirror bit for people who don't know the mirror bit.
the mirror bit is where like there's a frame or a something, and the actual mirror part of the mirror has been knocked out, and someone who is dressed identically or is a clone of or in some way looks identical to the original person is on the other side of the mirror, window, what have you, and is imitating everything that the person does.
You know what's really funny? One thing that wasn't on your list. Previous week we did cloning. I talked about the movie Replicate. You did the mirror bit in that movie.
Okay. All right.
I'm
I
just saying
respect. I
it's
respect
it's
that.
it's just that influential of a bit. Although to be fair, I don't know that they invented it, but they definitely popularized it.
Um. So
It's
I
probably just
mean,
like
like I said,
an old vaudeville gag, which is 90% of their shtick.
probably, but it was enjoyable to watch. It was
Groucho is my
silly.
favorite because he says so many jokes so fast that like you can miss one, and it's one that type of humor where like you can miss it and then like you rewatch it and then you hear a whole new joke that you didn't hear the first time. It's like that
Yeah,
kind of humor.
he's the newly installed president of the fictional country of Fredonia.
That movie in particular, he has a really solid. Oh man, I wish I could remember it, but he has a
Ze-
couple of really solid one-liners in that movie.
Zeppo is his secretary, and Chico and Harpo are the spies for the neighboring country of Sylvania.
Ah, that's funny. Yeah, they're very funny too. They have like a
Relations between Firefly and the Sylvanian ambassador, Calhern, deteriorate during the film, eventually leading the two countries to war.
the
That's
si-
the general. That's the general plot.
the silent one loves to torture people. It's his whole gag.
Yeah, and it's
He
hilarious.
gets off on torturing people. Yeah, and yeah. They're the Marx Brothers. The thing about the Marx Brothers is, if I say to you, "Do you know who the Marx Brothers are?" and you say no, that's a lie. You do. You've seen them in 1,000 things. You've seen Looney Tunes. You've seen Disney. Like any cartoon you've ever seen is Marx Brothers. I'm sure you probably realized that as you're watching this. You're like, I've seen this. I've seen this a
I
billion
mean,
times.
yeah, there's a lot of gags in there, but it's fun. It's
It's
all good fun.
it's all good fun. Like their movies, I have not seen one of their movies I dislike. And unlike Charlie Chaplin, there's enough of a difference between them that they're not all exactly the same.
Fair.
But there
I
are
will say though, with it only being a 68-minute running time, it is a brisk to get like a very rapid run to get through this.
uh,
Like you
I
can.
mean, hey, I'm not against that.
Oh no! Like I said,
Sometimes you need that.
after the long ass movie that came before it, it
Right?
was a breath of fresh air. It
Right?
just means that I don't necessarily have a ton to say about it.
No, I mean, what can you say about it other than like, yeah, it's iconic for a reason. Like they are like the godfathers of comedy, like in terms of modern slapstick. Like,
And as a result, it absolutely earns, in my opinion, it absolutely earns its place on the
oh, for
list.
sure. Like if there's a Mount Rushmore of physical comedy, it's like them, it's Charlie Chaplin. Like yeah, like physical and I guess wit, just pure dry wit. Like yeah, do you like Bugs Bunny? Then you like Groucho Marx because he's just Bugs
Yeah,
Bunny.
it's them. So I would say it's Charlie Chaplin, the Grouch brothers, or the Marx brothers rather, um,
Three Stooges.
Three Stooges, and Robin Williams.
Yeah. But yeah, man, they're like in that old school vaudeville era of yeah, the Three Stooges, Marx Brothers.
Which is why I put Robin Williams up there, because I think he also does that, and I think that's part of what made Robin Williams as strong as he was, is he brought that kind of physical energy to things in a time when
Oh,
it
for
was
sure.
no longer quite as common.
I don't know if he's quite the same kind of comedian. I like, cause like the vaudevillian comedian isn't he didn't they don't he's not really a vaudevillian comedian, but definitely he's definitely in that like space of being iconic. I definitely agree. Like he is iconic. They're all they're all good. They're all iconic. Yeah, these movies are great, and I was very excited to watch them. I was so excited to watch them because I was like, I know that these guys are brilliant, and yeah, I will sing the praises of the Marx Brothers. Jordan, is that it for the Marx Brothers?
That is it for Duck Soup.
Now here's my question as you wrap up your top 100 experience, Jordan, and before I get to my final one, would you come back to this? Would you do a part two?
Maybe if I could do your list.
Interesting. Interesting. That's fair. That's fair. I gotta be honest. Well, yeah, I gotta be honest. There's not many that there's not many much differences of stuff that you had seen other than the ones I did. Would you watch another Marx Brothers movie?
That I would probably do, yeah.
Would you watch another Charlie Chaplin movie?
Maybe.
Interesting.
It
Interesting. Fair enough. I respect the
would
maybe.
depend. It would depend on the context.
To be fair, there's only one more, and I think it gets booted off in the one. Also, there's other AFI lists we could do. I just picked the two top 100 ones. There's other 100 lists we could do.
We'll talk.
Well, we'll think about it. That's interesting. So my final one, is a movie called All the President's Men. It is directed and stars Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman, and it is about the Watergate investigation. So it's based on the book written by Woodward and Bernstein, the guys who blew open the Watergate scandal, and it's pretty much exactly that. It's a lot of guys a lot of news nerds sitting in rooms discussing news stories. And that's all it is. It's just journalism. It's just guys doing boring journalism jobs, occasionally dramatically interviewing people. It's kind of funny because the movie, like, it sure paints the Watergate criminals as kind of being like blatantly incompetent, because like how they get busted is they leave the door taped open and the security guard walks along and sees that someone's left the door open, and they just happen to see five guys standing there trying to break into this office. And what's kind of wild about, I mean, I don't want to get into Watergate, we don't have the time, but the wild thing about Watergate and this, it's like, you're like, oh man, everyone knows Watergate as being this big American political thing, right? But this movie kind of shows that, I think this came out in the 70s, right? Still, when it was still fairly fresh in people's minds, but people don't kind of realize that they didn't care about Watergate. Like, they were told not to do this, not to investigate this, because they were like, nobody cares about Watergate. Because to be clear, Nixon didn't need to do Watergate. He was almost guaranteed to win the next election. He was just so paranoid he did it anyway, but he didn't need to do it. Like, he was going to win no matter what, and he ended up having to cut his term short famously because he did this. So this ended up costing him his presidency anyway, which is just the wild irony of it.
Yeah, back in a time when presidents that did bad things actually were held accountable
right,
to it.
That's kind of wild about this. Is like, yeah, I'm like, oh, if this happened today, they would just be like, oh, what does it matter? Nobody cares. But like, nobody cared back then, but people at the very least cared enough to like be indignant enough to pressure him into leaving. Like, shame. That, I would say that it wasn't that people cared, it's just that shame was still a thing, so he felt shame over it, I think, maybe is the difference. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of wild. Again, I think it was one of them, Woodward or Bernstein, that has compared modern times to Watergate, and then they're like, man, Watergate was so small compared to stuff that happens today.
Right.
in terms of this movie, yeah, it's an engaging movie. If you're into like guys solving a mystery, it's a great like even if you don't, it's compelling enough that like knowing that it's based on a true story kind of makes it more interesting than less interesting. Um, like, oh, what went into discovering this thing in America? I'm trying to think. Was there anything else I had to say about that movie? I'm stalling. I don't think so. Yeah, no. It has a like. There. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Um, it's one of those movies that it's iconic in the sense that like everyone's done a variation of Deep Throat. Um, Deep Throat is. I mean, you know it. There's a sketch from There's a cutaway from Family Guy where they meet Scratchy Throat. It's the that you meet the guy in the parking garage and he's wearing a trench coat and you have the car and it lights him up from behind and he's like got his hands in his
Oh,
pocket. That.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not what my brain first thought when I heard Deep Throat.
It is. The name does come from that. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a scene where the guy's like, yeah, I came up with that. The notion being like the idea not well, I don't know. I think it was like it doesn't sort of. It's supposed to reference the fact that like he has a lot of information coming from his mouth. That is not specifically a reference to that, but I think it's tongue in cheek meant to be a reference to that. I think. But no, yeah, this week was wild to me. Like just to summate this week before we move on to next week and we forget all about this, as we always do. I just my thing about old movies is just being like, what did we learn from? This is what the culture, this is what the zeitgeist, this is how people were feeling. Like when I do Star Trek, I constantly bring up like, imagine like watching this in its time and like the cultural context of this. It's so fascinating how the thing I learned the first time I did this list and the first time I did this movies is just truly how humans never learn their lesson.
Oh no, absolutely not.
It's kind of incredible how we made all this media warning us of all this stuff, like to go back to network, warning us about the perils of 24 hours news cycle and how not to do that and how we did it anyway. And yeah, just spotting all of these things, letting billionaires corporately own your news, how that is abhorrent and you shouldn't do that in both Citizen Kane and whatchamacallit, Network. And it was just so weird to me how like I didn't set out to do a theme and it just kind of evolved. It was very strange. I can't speak for you. I enjoyed this week. I had a good time. But with that, it's time, Jordan. It's time to do the assignment for next week. And we don't get to do Valentine's Day because our show is on a Saturday and Valentine's Day is on a Friday. So our Valentine's Day episode is gonna go out a week early. As next week we do chick flicks. That is romantic comedies. That is romances. And in Jordan's case,
we don't acknowledge Valentine's Day.
And in Jordan's case, Jordan will be made to watch Sex in the City or he will be flogged. For legal purposes, I have to state he will not be flogged. It's important that everyone understands that. But he will
sometimes being flogged is less of a punishment.
Jordan, that will be Jordan's question. Is flogging less of a punishment than Sex in the City?
We'll find out.
Hey, Jordan, I will say this. I mean, unless it's changed, pretty sure Sex and the City's on Crave.
Yeah, but now it'll be in French.
Yeah, now it'll be in friggin' French. Anyway, Jordan, that's the end of the show. Where, Jordan? Let's do those end of show plugs. Where can the people find you, Jordan?
I do Minecraft Monday on Twitch, Zethgore187, and I do a podcast called Spur of the Moment Podcast, and you should know that you're on it right now.
You're watching it or listening or listening to it on YouTube because we do quite well, and the audio version does quite well on YouTube for some reason. You can find me in multiple places. I'm all over the internet. Mondays, I'm on a little show called The Final Frontier podcast, where we boldly go where no one has had the spare time to go before, where we talk about Star Trek one episode at a time. I'm on TikTok at Justin Spurr. You can find me over there. You can also find this show on TikTok at Spur of the Moment P on TikTok. If you want to sponsor the show, become one of our affiliates, pay us. You can email the show, or just generally want to say hello. That's also, you can also say hello. You can email the show at itsjustinsbusiness@gmail.com. If you want to, you can join the Discord and leave us all sorts of suggestions there. I got the Discord link. I'm pretty sure it works. If it doesn't work, let me know. I'll fix it. Subscribe to follow the Spur of the Moment Patreon. Jordan, am I missing anything? Oh,
like and subscribe to this channel.
Go buy that VR headset that we told you about earlier via the affiliate link. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell us if you like the show. Maybe if people leave enough comments, like reviews, maybe if people leave reviews, we'll read the reviews at the end of the show, maybe eventually one day. But with that, that's the end of the show, everyone. We will see you next week with Chick Flicks. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.